can you make sure that they can hear us in the back?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, we live.
Great, thank you for that. So today is August 18th, 2021. The time is 7:10 p.m. and I am calling to order the Baldwin Park City Council regular meeting. City Clerk, can I get a roll call?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Daniel Damian,
Here.
Councilmember Monica Garcia,
Here.
Councilmember Paul Hernandez,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Alejandra Avila,
Here.
Mayor Emmanuel Estrada,
Here.
and Treasurer Marie Contreras. I'm not sure if she's,
Here.
oh, there she
Oh,
is.
there she is.
Okay, great.
Good. Good, okay. And then I'm not sure if, is Pastor Jackson here today? Would you like to lead us in an invocation, please?
Heavenly Father, we come before you right now in the name of the Lord. We thank you for this day and every day that you have given to us. We're in a different time, a different generation, and many things have changed and is changing. You said to acknowledge you in all of our ways and you would direct our path. Baldwin Park needs your divine direction. Our nation needs your divine direction. And we're asking you, Lord God, and reaching even there in the Middle East and touching those in Afghanistan and those things that are happening there. Here we have our fires up north, Lord God, that burning many acres of land. We need the rain. We need you to touch it, Lord God. The COVID that is just running rampant, Father. You can do all things, Lord. You can break the power of that disease. You himself bore our sickness and carried our diseases, and with his stripes that we are healed. Hades that is happening. See, many things are happening around, but Lord, we're seeking you and we're seeking you for your mighty hand to be up on this nation, your mighty hand to be up on Baldwin Park. We're asking you, Lord God, in touching our city council. We're asking you, Lord, in touching our business, Lord God. We have the military, Lord God, that needs your help. And we asking for guidance and help and protection over our military. Our police department that is running the streets, Lord God, to serve and protect, Lord God. And Lord, we know that our fire department, with all these rolling fires that's going on, we need your help. And we're asking you, Father, for the first responders that are taking care of the sick, that you would touch them and touch their family. And we're asking you to touch our children, Lord God. And we're in school and there's controversies about the mask and all, Lord. But you know what to do. And we're asking you to lead, guide, and direct. In the name of the Lord, we pray. Amen.
City Manager, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Thank you, Mayor. Everyone, please raise the flag, place your right hand over your heart. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. And thank you, all of you. Oh, before I begin, I do want to make an announcement, and that's the City Council are also members of the Board of Directors of the Housing Authority and the Finance Authority, which are concurrently convening with the City Council this evening, and each council member is paid an additional stipend of $30 for attending the Housing Authority meeting and $50 for attending the Finance Authority meeting. I know that we are a little bit of a packed house today, so I hope that all of you will bear with us as we try to make this the smoothest of events. We do have some certificates, and because there is a huge list of volunteers, what we'll do is that we'll ask you to stand if you're in here. If you're outside, we'd like you to come in real quick and wave hi to everybody. And then the certificates will be handed out by Maria after the roll call outside, okay? And so these certificates, Manny, would you like to explain to everybody what these certificates are for? I believe they're for our volunteers, correct?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, I would like to acknowledge all of the volunteers that we've had, volunteers and actually sponsors and other individuals that have helped out over the last year and a half or so. We received a directive from the city council to put together a food program. And we ended up serving well over 120,000 meals. I'm probably underestimating that by quite a bit, but I don't want to overestimate. And hundreds of pounds of poultry and meat and protein. We had two different types of events. We had weekly distributions, home delivery for about 16 months from the Julia McNeil Senior Center, and that was delivered directly to the residents' homes that registered for the program. In addition, we had what we call the Food Collaborative, that we disperse food every other Saturday. We coordinated that event at at Morgan Park. And while the Kaiser vaccination site was operating at Morgan Park, we temporarily moved that to the church as well as Barnes Park. So all in all, I think the city of Baldwin Park had an amazing last year and a half. Like to thank all the staff members. We have Irma Garcia in the audience that led the charge, as well as Maria Moreno and countless of our staff members. I'm looking at their faces right now, and all the volunteers. It was literally an amazing program. So at this point, I would turn it back over to our mayor. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Manny. And of course, my colleagues and I want to thank our staff and the volunteers who dedicated their time during one of the once in a generation event, right? It was a full-on pandemic, and there was a silver lining to it, and that's that the community came together and it showed us that we can overcome some of the challenges that we face, whether they're unforeseeable or not. We've made great strides, and we've been able to do it with the help of our staff and, of course, the help of the community. And our neighbors were able to look after one another, and that's one of the greatest things that we can hold on to after this event. I hope and I am looking forward to keeping the sense of unity from now till forevermore, so Baldwin Park can continue to grow in a way that benefits us all. So thank you for that. And at this point, I will pass it on to my colleagues.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also, Manny, I think we would be remiss if we didn't thank our labor partners when they hosted our food distribution events. They did 3 of these, if I remember correctly. Some of them range from anywhere from 13,000 meals up to 7,000 meals per day. So again, this was a collaborative effort, not only through our team, our partners, but also those unions that support many of the workers that live in our city and are outside of our city. So again, thank you for our team, our staff, and the various partners that stepped in to assist us. Because again, when we did the home deliveries, this was a new program that did not exist. And thanks to Manny's leadership and Maria and others in April, we were able to begin the home delivery and provide another level of food security, but most importantly, security from COVID during this period of time. So again, we're not done. We're not out of this. As you can imagine, we're all wearing masks. We have a prevalent, new virus, Delta, that's, affecting our community, even those that have been vaccinated. So again, thank you. And this is something that I suspect will be an ongoing, effort on our parts moving forward. Again, thanks, sir.
Thank you. I want to also express my appreciation to all of those that have come out and stepped up for our community and those that are most in need. It was a collaborative effort. It was a lot of work, but as long as we stay together, we stick together, anything is possible. It's been very difficult times, more difficult for others, but we have worked together. We have provided so many meals to so many people in need. And I want to thank all of you that were out there helping, either putting the packages together, delivering the food, whatever it was you were doing as volunteers. I also want to thank all the staff because they have been amazing. They have been at the front lines working day in and day out to make sure that we collaborated with those that provided the food services for us so we can deliver all those meals to our seniors. So again, thank you, everybody. And let's just not work together in hard times, but let's continue to work together all the time. Thank you.
Is there any
Mayor.
other? Yeah, there. Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I can't even thank you enough to our staff under the leadership of our director, Manny Carrillo, to Maria Moreno, and all staff that led this effort, all of our partners that collaborated with us to deliver service in an entirely different way, out of a necessity, but I just appreciate the spirit of working together to provide for our community during such great uncertainty. And everybody just pulled together, organized, and adapted. And this is adaptive leadership at its best. And I want to thank all of our volunteers who also made this effort successful. You touched lives. Our seniors depended on you for their livelihood and also for the interaction during a really dark time for them. I remember mid-March 2020 when we were first embarking on this effort and reevaluating, looking at how our programs are going to be impacted. And we had great concerns about our seniors because we know how much they depend. Their lives depend on the programs that our city provides. And so we started to rethink how we were going to deliver this service. And I just can't applaud you enough on how you rose to the occasion, not only in mid-March, but over, more than the span of a year. And like Councilmember Hernandez said, we're not at the end of this yet. We are still adapting, and this COVID and experience continues to evolve. But I do want to celebrate, all the work, all of your work, the collaboration, our partnership, the service, and the spirit of what we were able to accomplish together. And I want to thank all of you for contributing. So thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yes, Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Damon.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I also want to thank all of our volunteers, our great staff under the leadership of Manny Carrillo, Maria Moreno, April Rojo, and everyone over at Parks and Rec. I also want to thank Boricuan Post for their collaboration with the food distribution. They've helped lead the charge, as well as Baldwin Park Pizza Company. They're a small business here in our city, and they've been very gracious with assisting us through the pandemic and, beyond that. So I also want to thank and acknowledge them as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, council members. And I do see in the audience, we have members from the Church of Redeemer. So I do want to give you a big thank you, because I know that the Church of Redeemer has also was diligently out there throughout the pandemic. I know that you extended your days, and I was out there to see it. And I don't even think Amazon could compete with you guys. You guys were efficient and just delivering at an incredible pace. And I know that you were also delivering the meals to the seniors. So we are all thankful for that as well. So at this moment, we'll go down the line. If you're in the chambers, please stand up so we can all acknowledge you. If you are outside because of capacity, please come to the door and we can acknowledge you then. As I said, Maria will then pick up the certificates and hand them to our volunteers outside. And first, we'll recognize our staff. And we have Ramon Hernandez. And we have Claudia Urbina. We have Anthony Baez. We have Jessica Vasquez. Juan Rico. Henry Ramos. Irma Garcia. Then we have Jazari Taylor. And of course, we have Helen Hernandez. Let's move over to, over there.
That everybody?
So that is our staff. So a big thank you to our staff who make the city go round. And now we have our volunteers, and we can start off with Basilio Cortez. Oh, okay. Yeah, so at this point, because we do have a lot more volunteers, we would ask that you just stay at your seat and then just raise your hand, okay? No worries. And then we have Javier Vargas.
Director Vargas with the Valley County Water District.
Correct, Director Vargas. And we have Jorge Hernandez. Yeah. And then we have Jazari Taylor. We have Candy Gutierrez. We have Javier Navarro. We have Domingo Sambolin. We have Eva Lopez. I believe Eva's outside, is that correct? Oh, there you are. Okay. We have Richie Santos. We have Steven Lopez. We have Carlos Garcia. We have John F. Garcia. Jacob Herrera. We have Pastor Angeles Coronado. We have Leonardo Camacho. We have our former council member, Jean Ayala. We have Ricardo Vasquez. We have Mylene Fell. We have Jose Antonio Fell. Frelia Fell. Alberto Fell. We have Raquel Puente. Julio César Estrada. And we have Benito Ramos. And we have one more, and that is Angel Escobedo. Oh, I think he's way in the back outside. Oh, okay. Okay. So once again, thank you to all the volunteers for all your hard work during this pandemic and making sure that your neighbors were not going to sleep hungry. As I mentioned before, Maria will have your certificates outside of the door and she will be handing them out there for you all. Okay, thank you. He is. She's all cardio. Oh, okay. Great. Great. And so these events were not only impossible without our volunteers and our dedicated staff, but they were also made possible because we partnered with local organizations and they stepped up and they donated either their time or resources. And we want to congratulate them with a plaque and thank them for their efforts during the pandemic. First, we want to thank Baldwin Park Pizza Company, who I believe was not able to make it today. And we will have a plaque for them and make sure it is delivered. I did see a representative from Grocery Outlet. Yeah, the representative from Grocery Outlet can come up here. Next, we have Food Forward, and I believe that they also weren't able to make it today. We have a plaque for Walmart, and I'm not sure if there's a representative from Walmart here tonight. If there is, you can raise your hand. If not, we move on to the next one, and that is Kaiser Permanente, and I believe that we have a member of their team via Zoom. Yeah, Reina.
Hi, yes, Mayor and Council Member. This is Reina Del Haro. I just wanted to express our appreciation for allowing us to be part of the program. We actually repurposed our community garden in Baldwin Park that's usually used for the Garden Gourmets program for students. So we're honored that we could contribute in a meaningful way for this wonderful program. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to the Kaiser team. And that is correct. If you weren't able to hear, Kaiser did repurpose their community garden, and they donated their produce, and we were able to add it as an extra to our senior meals. And next, we'd like to recognize the YWCA of San Gabriel Valley. We'd also like to thank Church of the Redeemer.
Mayor, so we can't do this by ourselves, so I'd like to have some of my staff come up as well.
Brought that. Okay, and we have our partner, the Baldwin Park Unified School District. And we have the American Legion, the Borinquen Post 508. Arte Community Church. And we have Iglesia Casa de Fe. Yeah. Should we go down there for a picture? Okay. And so, once again, thank you to all the organizations that provided their staff, their resources, and their time to make these events possible for our community. The council and I and the city as a whole are completely thankful for all of your efforts. And next, we have recognition of our Baldwin Park High School football players. And so I'd like to see the families of the football players. Are they here today? Great, okay. Good. And I believe that our Assemblywoman did send her representative to hand some certificates to them as well, and so did our state senator, Susan Rubio. So if you guys would like to come to the podium.
Hello, good evening, Mayor, Council, and residents of Baldwin Park. On behalf of Senator Susan Rubio, we'd just like to be here to celebrate this really momentous event for these young high school graduates. On behalf of Senator Susan Rubio, we'd like to present a certificate of recognition for these outstanding 4 students for their a commitment to attend a higher institution. We applaud their continued leadership and dedication to their education and athletic perseverance, which has led them to achieve this milestone accomplishment. So we would send them off with best wishes and highest congratulations. I believe my counterpart with Assemblymember with Assemblymember Blanca Rubio also would like to say a few words.
Second part of the amazing dual sisters, right? Yeah. Thank you, everyone, Mayor, Council, audience. I'm Veronica Lopez with Assemblywoman Blanca Rubio. I am here to congratulate outstanding football players, students at Baldwin Park High School, alma mater. Woohoo, go Braves. So we would like to, on behalf of Assemblywoman Blanca Rubio, would like to acknowledge and commend these 4 students for their perseverance and for congratulating them upon their education and athletic and academic achievements. And we wish them very well in their next endeavors in college, universities. We're so proud of them and we wish them well. And I always say to students, move forward, don't give up. You have a whole village behind you that will support you. Do not give up on anything. Right now with the pandemic, there's a lot of students who are giving up, not wanting to leave home. We want to encourage each and every one to move forward. Your family, your friends, your community is here to support you. So thank you and congratulations again to these 4 students. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I don't want to assume, but are you coach? Would you like to come up here and then maybe just give us a little brief overview of what it means to be committed to a college?
My name is Coach Knight. I'm the athletic director at Baldwin Park High School, and I also coach football. These boys, thank you. These boys have put in a ton of time, a ton of commitment the last 4 years here at Baldwin Park High School, in the weight room, in the classroom. We typically are there at 6 in the morning for our weight room session. So they're giving up their time in the morning. They'll get breakfast. They're at school all day. We have practice until about 6 or 7 o'clock. And then they're off home where they're having to do homework to get those grades so they can make this great achievement of getting a scholarship to play college football. Right now at this level at the college football, they're there from 6 to about 11 at night, working their butts off in film and in school and in the weight room and training and all that. So we're so proud of them. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here. We have a couple of parents here that are here to get this honor for them and myself. And they're out there practicing right now, actually. So we're just proud of them. We're very proud that they're representing our city of Baldwin Park.
Thank you for that.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you. Again, thank you very much for your commitment and your dedication, because you don't have to be the football coach. That's not necessarily your primary job. You do that for the love and your dedication for, instilling great leadership and, guidance for these young men. And obviously it's, as you can see, your fruit and your labors is paying off. To the parents, thank you for your commitment, to allowing them and supporting them. As a high school, athlete myself, I understand the role of what it means to not only go to school, but then having practice and then finishing your homework and finishing up with practice or other trainings. And that couldn't have been possible if it wasn't for the support of, my family. So I commend you for your dedication for, elevating these young individuals. It's not only important just that they're going and playing school, but more importantly, in my view, is the education that they're getting. This is the piece that's more instrumental than any athlete, that any type of athleticism that's going to pay off for them. It's more of the education component that will assist them and have them move forward upwards in life. And hopefully they come back to Baldwin Park. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to congratulate these 4 young men for achieving their goals. I'm sure since they were young, they had a goal in mind. And it was thanks to their family, the parents that helped them and pushed them and supported them throughout the way. And to the coach and other teachers that have been part of their life to keep them motivated and keep them going regardless of what they're facing. So I want to commend you, the parents, the coaches, the teachers, and everybody that has been involved in their lives for helping them succeed. And now they're moving forward to a university. I see they're all going to university, to 4-year college. So congratulations to the students, the parents, the families, and all their education team and everybody that has been behind them throughout their life. Thank you.
Is there any other council member looking to speak? Not? Well, I definitely understand. We don't want to mess up the exercise routine. I know that it's always hard to get in there, but we do want to recognize Josh Arevalo. He committed to Cal Lutheran University. We're also recognizing Isaiah Lopez, who committed to University of Laverne. We have Benny Ramos, who committed to Pacific University. And then we have Daniel de la Torre, who committed to University of Redlands. Yeah. And then our city clerk will go ahead and hand those to the coach. Thank you all for being here today. We are excited to be able to congratulate your students and your children on the great accomplishments that they are achieving, not only for themselves, but also on the behalf of Baldwin Park, and showing what products we can make here in the city of Baldwin Park. So thank you for that.
Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you. Yes, I just want to congratulate these 4 leaders from our community. I want to wish you all the best as you embark on your new chapters. Go out and represent our city to the best of your ability, and don't forget where you came from. We're supporting you. We're behind you 100%. And I want to congratulate your parents, your family as well, and thank the coach for your contribution to our community. So I'll tell you what people have told me in the past: échale ganas, and all the best to all of you. Thank you.
So at this moment, I would like to welcome up here our incoming city commissioners. And I believe they're for the Planning Commission and our Parks and Recreation Commission, if I am not mistaken. Yeah, all of them. Yeah. Yeah, so the Parks Commission can go on this side, and our City Planning Commission can go on this side. just before I swear you in, I want to congratulate all of you, and I want to thank you all for sending in your application and deciding to be a part of your municipal government and having a say in what happens here at City Hall and how we develop the city for the future. It's exciting. We don't have all of our commissions here yet. Some are still in progress, but I think it is very exciting to be able to announce that all of our commissions are going to be in operations this year. I would hope to say and safely that we've created a very diverse commission. Out of the many applicants that applied, we were able to put into office the majority of those candidates, except for maybe one or two. So it was a very successful project for not just the council, but also for yourselves as well. So I encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity and represent your community in the best way possible. I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the State of California without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Congratulations.
Mayor?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
I want to take the time to congratulate all of our Parks and Recreation commissioners, our planning commissioners. I think we made a great decision and I'm looking forward to working with every single one of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and we're very excited to see our planning commission and our Parks and Recs be officially sworn in. We look forward to the discussions that you will have. I hope that you have some long and challenging discussions, maybe even longer than the ones that we have here in our city council.
Now get to work.
Yes, Mayor, Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you. Again, thank you very much, commissioners, for taking the oath and taking the responsibility. As you know, I'm sure you won't take it lightly, and enjoy yourself, have fun, learn the process. For those that are in our Rec and Parks Commission, that's quite enjoyable. But again, with our folks on our planning side, again, you have a huge responsibility as you are going to help shape the city. So again, thank you for taking this opportunity, volunteering, and when time allows, we'll be seeing everybody out in the community at our great events.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes, Councilmember Damian.
Yeah, I would also like to thank our commissioners for dedicating their time to our community. I look forward to working with each and every one of them. And I just want to say congratulations to each one of them. Thank you.
Mayor.
Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you. I also want to congratulate all of our commissioners, and I hope that you will really embrace the opportunity to serve this community, and it can be such a positive experience and a great learning experience too. I look forward to working with all of you. In 2001, I was actually sworn in as a planning commissioner, and it really has been such a positive path forward. So I hope that it's just as positive and enjoyable for all of you. And I look forward to, all of the contributions together. Thank you.
Thank you. And as we move on, I do want to ask our city attorney to report from our closed session.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our closed session has not yet concluded, so we have not reported anything out. And I believe we'll be going back into closed session after the regular meeting, and we will report out after that.
Great. Thank you for that, city attorney. And I believe at this point, we do have a presentation from this regarding San Gabriel Valley safe parking presentation from the chief executive officer from Foothill Unity Center, Tashira Taylor. You can turn on your mic.
Okay, great. I don't do this often, so sorry about that. Good evening and thank you to the mayor and to the council members and to the audience as well, to the residents. Thank you for this opportunity, for allowing us to be here to speak about safe parking, to remember our unhoused population. So we really thank you for that. And thank you for giving us the opportunity, reminding us of the swear and like what we swear to support and to do in different roles. So thank you for that. So I'll go ahead and get started. I am Tashira Taylor. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Foothill Unity Center, and many people might know Betty McWilliams. She's retired now, and so I am the Chief Executive Officer. And who I have with us here this evening is our San Gabriel Valley Safe Parking Committee. And so I will speak. I'll stay with 5 minutes. I'll keep my eye on the time. I don't know where the time is, but I'll keep my eye on it somehow. But we can go to the next slide, or how do I do that? Okay, great. Thank you. So what you see, an introduction to who we are, those are all of our names up there, and you'll see executive officers, co-founders of nonprofits, retired and board members. I like to say we're a motley crew, and I'm the youngest member to the group. But mostly I like to say that we are compassionate advocates of housing solutions or paths to housing for our unhoused neighbors in crisis, and our community members who are in crisis. Next slide, please. So for 3 years, this committee has done research on safe parking in Santa Barbara Safe Parking Program, in the Safe Parking LA. And what we found is there are 10 other safe parking programs in LA County. However, what we mostly found is that there was not one safe parking program in the San Gabriel Valley until we started a pilot program. So next slide, please. And so that's just a picture. These are stock pictures, so those are none of the participants that we serve. So please know that we are very confidential in the work that we do. Next slide, please. I just want to quote, creative solutions are needed to alleviate the bottlenecks we are currently working against at a time where housing resources are limited in supply. And so we know that the demand is greater than the supply in comparison of shelter. So why do we have these options of safe parking is what we wanted to talk about. Also, not safe, shelter is not the solution for everyone. It's a solution, right? But it's not the solution for everyone. And so for some people, living or dwelling in a shelter brings up those or triggers those negative experiences just based on being in close proximity or not having or establishing a level of trust. And then lastly, we know that when someone is just recently unhoused, when we have those quicker interventions, then we can prevent that level of chronic homelessness. Next slide, please. And so I want to talk a little bit about our safe parking pilot program specifically. So in April of this year, we launched a safe parking program, this committee. And we are, after 6 months of prep work. So we launched it in April where we were getting our first cars, but we did a lot of infrastructure work, a lot of paperwork building, a lot of setting and establishing of the rules. Some of the rules of which are for people who are going to sleep in the parking space, the entry time is 9 o'clock, the exit time is 7 o'clock. We set up the restrooms with the host site. We did a lot of interviewing with the host site. Am I forgetting anything? Yeah. So we set this up, and what we made a decision in this with this host site is that while there were plenty of parking spaces, we only are utilizing 5 of the parking spaces. And so that gives the parkers the space and the privacy to some level of privacy to sleep and to rest and not to feel overcrowded or anything. So that was one of the decisions that we made. Another decision that we made is that we're not bringing people from outside of that city. So the people who are in the city that are dwelling or that are occupying the safe parking spaces, they are from that city. And so that's something that we made a commitment to. And then we also focused on the faith-based organizations. So this is our pilot, right? So the faith-based organizations are wanting to be involved. And so therefore, we were giving them an opportunity to be involved at a small scale or a small chunk. So it can be very frightening or intimidating, or people just back out if they're saying you've got to host 20 cars or 100 cars of safe parking. And so we just thought we'd start at a small scale of 5. Next slide, please. And so this partnership that we have is not just myself as a program, right? But it is the Safe Parking Committee members, which are right here. And we have Jill that's absent and Betty who's retired right now and traveling, but she'll be back with our Safe Parking Committee. But the Safe Parking Committee's role is they provide their expertise and their advice, and they educate others about safe parking. I'm doing this evening, doing a presentation because I guess I'm newer to the group. And so I just got kind of thrown in to do that, but but that's one of the roles. And then identifying the funding opportunities, because it does take funding to do this. And then as a Foothill Unity Center, we are a service provider. And so a lot of what we provide is we manage the program itself. We assure that there is funding. We create the protocols, we enter into the MOU. And then the faith-based, they're the ones that, and each is unique, but they're the ones that provide access to park a vehicle. They assure that there's hygiene and sanitation facilities, as well, trash receptacles. And then, the security is set up as well, and charging stations, and possibly a place to send their mail. So again, each host site is unique, and this particular one that we're working with, these are some of the services that they provide. Next slide, please. Oh, next slide, I'm sorry. Yeah. And so one of the things that we put in there, and you guys can speak to this, a possible role of the city is finding, locations. That's a great help. It's what I see is that collaboration is necessary. And what I actually saw as you were doing presentations this evening and as you were speaking about, the volunteers and the coming together during this COVID, collaboration is key. And so I have some minutes. I thought I saw a hand. No, okay. That collaboration is important. So collaborating to find space and then setting up security and just making sure that you have what you need as to provide for the participants that utilize the safe parking, what they need, an opportunity to rest and to feel safe. Okay. Next slide, please. And then components again of a successful program is for the safe place at the host site, right? That is caring and committed members, and actually committed committee members as well is just as important, but active communication. So some of the things that we've experienced is, there was a period that we just had one parker. And so we needed to come back as a committee and regroup and say, what do we need to do to build the 5? I know that 5 isn't a lot, but it is a lot. So we had to regroup and put some flyers together. And then evaluating the services. So it really is important. After our pilot process, we will evaluate. We have a pre and an entry survey that we provide, as well an exit survey. And so we will get some feedback from those who are participating in the parking so that we can know how we can improve on the safe parking, and then also incorporate that into our education. And then with that, funding is important. So it doesn't run by itself. There is a lot of time, and energy that goes into providing the service to the participants. Next slide, please. And so this is just a base cost. Is it time? Okay. This is just a base cost. It's personnel costs and security. Those are some hard, fast costs. Vehicle repairs, participants that come in, they might need those vehicle repairs or things that are relevant to their vehicle. This is money to move some of the barriers out of the way for the participants. So those are just some general costs to run a safe parking program. Next slide, please. And so we see the long-term value of having a safe parking program in any community, right? So we look at safe parking as a pathway to stable housing. It's a step to ease the homelessness in the community itself. And we're not asking just one group, to host all of the parking sites. I mean, we're asking many people to be involved to help to again, ease the homelessness. And then it's a designated safe place to park and to sleep overnight. And so people don't have to worry about the citations and the towing, which can be huge. It's also a connection to service providers and case management services and resources that support removing barriers to housing. And then it's a comprehensive intervention and preventive measure to chronic homelessness. So there is the intervention that takes place, and especially for those who are recently homeless, but those who are not recently homeless, just getting connected into the pathways, into the coordinated entry system, into assessing, maybe back to reunifying with family, that is important as well, touching on the health and the whole person, basically. Next slide, please. And so homelessness impacts all, right? Families, individuals, seniors, and children, all are without a place to call home. And so we invite you to help bring housing solutions to the housing crisis by offering safe parking in your area, Baldwin Park. Next slide, please. And then where you can join in. So these are just some specifics here. If you're interested in education, then you can contact Jill Shook. And if you're interested in leveraging safe parking with funds, then you can contact me. And then if you're interested in becoming a host site or know of potential host sites, then you can contact our committee members here. This is Carol and Wendy and Tom. And then if you're interested in program, referring someone into our program, then you can contact, it says Melody, but you can contact Sandra at foothillunitycenter.org. And thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you
Are
for
there
being.
any questions? Sorry.
No worries.
Okay.
Don't worry. We're getting to the questions.
Okay.
So, I think one of the biggest ones we need to, or that I'd like to focus on, is that you're talking about volunteer opportunities for childcare So does that mean that there are families sleeping in their cars at these places?
So where our pilot is, that host site does not have the families with the children at this host site. But like I was mentioning earlier, there are, each host site would be unique. So you would go down a list. We have a list of questions that we ask. What would the host site want? Are they good with families with children? There are families with children sleeping in their cars. We know that. So yeah. But this host site does not have families with children sleeping in their cars.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely important that you emphasize on that, right? Because we don't normally think of families sleeping in their cars. I think I remember maybe 2 or 3 years ago, there was an article that I think in Guardian, an infant died because they were sleeping in the van. You know, and it was so cold outside. So it's important that we take those things in mind, and you know, maybe we can immediately offer those families a safe and sound a structure, but we can offer them a safe parking space at the very least, where they are safe.
Definitely.
And they know that they will wake up tomorrow.
Yeah.
In
And definitely with the city's involvement, right? So as a city, if you're on board with safe parking, then there is not having to go under the radar or anything. And so the city and the community knows that you support this, and a host site would know that you support this. And so more host sites would be apt to, let's go ahead and bring in families with children on our site. So that's important.
I think another important topic you touched on is how it's completely local. So we're focusing on the people that are already here, the people that are parking on our streets, whether it's behind Walmart or on Arrow or anywhere in a residential area, which I think is important. A lot of the times when we're trying to find resources, that's one of the hardest parts where we have to sign up with a regional authority where they already have a waiting list, and instead of taking care of ours, they're going down their list. So
And so with our pilot, giving the opportunity for each city to, take care of the unhoused community within their city. Do you want to chime in, Wendy? Okay, I didn't know, you were looking like you wanted to say.
No, I was just going to, so I'm Wendy McGrail, and I just wanted to say it is really important that whatever community we are in, we are serving that community, because we hear it again and again and again. We don't want people from the outside coming in. We don't want people who are homeless outside of our community to be coming in. It's not going to be a draw. And so we're very, very clear when we're working with a particular community, it will be for that community.
Definitely, I definitely appreciate that part, because I know that that's always a resident concern, right? So at this point, I'll let my well, before, sorry, you did mention leveraging funds for this. So is this something that the city puts in, or is this something that we can work with the Foothill Unity Center?
Yeah, I think we could go in together in terms of providing this service, this resource. So yes.
Okay, thank you. And then at this moment, I'll leave my colleagues.
Mayor, thank
Yes,
you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for this great presentation. It is so important. We have all been working on how to help our homeless community members here in the city of Baldwin Park. I mentioned this many times before. I work for the Baldwin Park School District, and I have dealt directly with homeless families that live in their cars, that had no place to live. Before I became a city clerk and then a councilwoman, I would always reach out to Parks and Recreation to try to get vouchers. A lot of times they were very helpful. A lot of times they ran out of vouchers, and these families have nowhere to go. And yes, there is a lot of kids and families looking for a safe place where they can sleep. I really like the fact that you said, if I heard correctly, that there is homework available, help for the students. And not only that, just a place for them to be safe, because again, I have met many families, and a lot of people don't believe it because they think of homeless as one type of homeless, the drug addicts, the mental health issues, but there's so many, and they need help as well. Don't get me wrong. They also need help, but there's a lot of families that we have no idea. We have children coming into our schools that we have no idea they're homeless. We have no idea that they did not eat the night before. And just having a place for them where they can be safe, even if it's still in their car, and know that they can sit outside of their car and have a meal and know that nothing will happen to them. That's just a blessing. So I'm very excited about this program. Excuse me. I look forward to working together and providing services for our residents here in Baldwin Park, because it is very important. And maybe once we do connect, we can connect with the school district, because I can guarantee you, they can give you a lot of leads on who would need your services. So thank you very much for this opportunity and giving us this presentation. I'm looking forward to working with you.
I'd like to add that people who live in their car, own the car, they probably have a job. They're more likely to take advantage of social services to get into housing. So they're kind of a upper echelon of homeless people.
Yes, you're right. I agree. Like I said, I've met a lot of families where they had to drop off their kids and then go off to work. I've mentioned last time that I have met families that they would leave their children at a family member's home, but there wasn't enough room for the parents, so the parents would stay in the car. So it's just heartbreaking. So I'm glad that those opportunities are there, at least to start, to give them services while they're at their home, and then later on provide other services for them. So thank you for that.
Again, thank you for everything that you're doing. The one thing I'd ask for staff and ourselves is, as we roll this out, let's try to prioritize, if there's a family that arrives at your center or at your facility, that's a time and an opportunity for us to work together with our staff so we can move them directly into an overnight shelter, whether it's a hotel voucher or whatever the case might be.
Awesome.
So they don't have to actually be at your location. So we can pull them in, put them into social services, and try to remove not only the individuals with kids, but also, if possible, to identify the more also vulnerable, the seniors that are living in their homes and living on a fixed income, because those are also the other extreme vulnerability within the homeless community. So let's just make sure that, we're tied together in the hip, that you have a telephone number to contact the city after hours and so forth, so we can, or provide you the vouchers themselves. I'll let you and Manny figure out those logistics,
Awesome.
but so that way we could actually, provide tangible resources at your disposal.
Right. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'd just like to say thank you to, I'd like to say thank you to the Baldwin Park. I was here about a month and a half ago when you had the vote for pallet housing. I was in a meeting this morning and they brought up Baldwin Park as a job center. You guys fed 120,000 people. I'm so impressed with you. I grew up in Baldwin Park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that, that's definitely an opportunity that we want to keep in mind as we move forward and as we find locations to house this type of program. We know that the tiny homes that are slated to come in a couple of months are more for individuals. Seems that it's more of a general population where you can have families and small children. And I think that's also a necessity. A lot of our families end up hurting, or like you said, Mayor Pro Tem, they're living, they're living with their they're living with other family members. They're identified in small places, and and it's not a way to live. So we definitely want to find all the resources possible, and like Councilmember Hernandez said, we find them, we bring them here, and if we have other better solutions for them and a nice warm bed at a hotel, then we'll grant them those vouchers. So at this moment, I will open up public communications.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you. Before we open public communications, I did want to close on behalf of a community member, a longtime community member, Mr. Javier Limon, and also offer our condolences to the Limon family. They have been part of Baldwin Park for generations. And let's see, Mr. Limon, he was born March 22nd, 1951, and unfortunately passed away of COVID, August 7th, 2021. And he leaves behind his wife, Martha, as well as his sons, Joseph, Petey, Jerry, and Javi. And I just wanted to take the moment to, offer our condolences and just express how wonderful this man has been in our community, offering, his time as a coach. We saw a coach earlier, and we saw the impacts that these coaches leave on the youth of our community, and no different with Mr. Limon, part of the little league programs here in the community, raising his sons. I remember him being at athletic events when I was growing up, as a cheerleader, attending Baldwin Park High School. And so this is a family that has been part of the fabric of our city and our community. And I just want to express my appreciation for Mr. Limon and also give condolences to his family.
Mayor, before we have
Yes,
comments,
Mayor Pro Tem.
I want to mention, Dr. Mendoza from the Baldwin Park School District reached out to me, and he wanted to thank the Baldwin Park City Police for their collaboration with the school district. As you all know, we started school last Thursday on the 12th, and the police, there is no longer school police, so now Baldwin Park PD is responding to calls. So Dr. Mendoza wants to personally thank Officer Wenner. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He was called out to one of our sites, and he was very impressed, very happy with the service that he provided to our students at our school. And he's so excited to be working with the Baldwin Park Police Department. He knows that we have great men and women working for this department, and he looks forward to continuing working with them. And he's just very excited of the first contact we had to have with them on the service that we provided for the school district. So thank you to the police department, Chief. Make sure you tell them at their briefings that Dr. Mendoza is very excited and looking forward to continuing working with all of you. Thank you.
Great. And that's great news to know that our school district and our police department and the city can partner together on issues that matter. And I want to thank the PD as well. And I've met Officer Wenner a couple of times, and I know that he's very dedicated and he's very knowledgeable. He's also a member of the host team. Is that right, Chief? So definitely glad that they are able to work with our school district to keep our children safe and everybody and our parents at ease. So thank you, Baldwin Park Department, Police Department. At this moment, I will move to open public communications. City Clerk, is there anybody who filled out a slip?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We do have one speaker card. The speaker is Claudio Gonzalez. He would like to speak on streets, and he will need an interpreter. Is our interpreter available online?
The interpreter is ready. Can you?
Nomás, con el intérprete nomás puede decir un poquito de lo que va a decir y luego el intérprete va a traducir y luego puede continuar, ¿ok?
Ok, perfecto. Buenas noches, señor alcalde. Buenas noches a todos, también a ustedes. La cuestión de nuestra visita aquí de nosotros los vecinos es que tenemos un problemita y necesitamos su ayuda, señor alcalde.
Good evening.
Estamos sufriendo.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, everyone here present as well. The reason for our visit is because we have a small, little problem, Mayor. Adelante.
Estamos sufriendo daños desde el mes de mayo del 2021 hasta el día de hoy en la calle Chevalier y Mainland Avenue, aquí en la ciudad de Baldwin Park, de un criminal que nos dispara a los carros. No le importa que estén las personas adentro de su propio carro. Van
Un momento,
más de
por
13
favor.
carros.
Un momento, por favor.
más de
We have been suffering damages through ever since June through now on the following intersection, Chevalier Street. ¿Cuál era la otra calle, perdón?
Van más de 13 carros dañados.
Un momento, por favor, para la interpretación. There has been a shootouts. There's a criminal that is shooting at cars.
La calle Chevalier y Mainland Avenue.
Between Chevalier and Main Avenue. Mainland, I'm sorry.
Mainland. Van más de 13 carros dañados y esperando con miedo que dispare hoy o el día de mañana. Quisiéramos su protección para que no estemos a merced de este tirador, ya que es un tirador en serie. Pudiera después, con balas de verdad, vaya a centros comerciales, ya que no le importa que lo vean o lo graben, él dispara.
And so there's been 13 cars already that have been, damaged. So we are seeking your protection so that we are not at the mercy of this serial shooter. We never know if this shooter might show up to a shopping center one day with real bullets and start shooting everyone.
Por eso creemos que usted pudiera ayudarnos a poner una buena cámara para que lo grabe las placas y su carro, porque nosotros tenemos cámaras que lo hemos grabado, pero son insuficientes. Y ponerlo en, y que pueda la ley castigarlo. Y pudiera ayudarnos también con los gastos, porque la verdad nosotros somos personas que vamos día a día y ya son 13 carros. A mí me han dañado 2 veces el mismo carro. Hay muchas personas que también son 2 veces y esta persona no tiene, no tiene control de cualquier cosa. No sé si alguno de mis vecinos también quieran algo.
So we would like you to help us with maybe setting up a surveillance camera so that we can get the model of the car and get license plates as well. And maybe that way this person can face the authorities and pay maybe restitution or damages. I've been his victim. My cars have suffered some damages. I don't know if maybe some of my neighbors would like to add something else.
My name is Esther Garnica, and I actually had my car shot on Sunday. My cost to 2 windows in my car is going to be about $2,196. Luckily, I have the insurance, which is going to lower that a little bit. Yesterday, my son's car got shot, as well as other 3 cars. All at the same time. So it's been more than 13, actually. I want to say more than 15 that we know of. And one of the persons that got shot yesterday, she was in the car and they cracked the window. She was lucky that the bullet didn't go through, otherwise it would have hit her head if she was in the car. So, we're just asking for assistance. I want to buy a camera. I already looked into pricing in Costco so that we can set a whole bunch of cameras around us, but it's not just that. We need assistance from you guys. From someone to go in and monitor the area. It's been happening between 4 and 6 o'clock that we know of right now. So anything that you guys can do for us. We just wanted to relate this information to you guys because we've been calling the police and making reports, but nothing has been done as of yet.
Great, thank you. And so if you need a translator, Chief Deputy Clerk can maybe go outside with you. But if not, maybe Commander Halford, can you take down their information, notes? We'll get your street address and then all relevant information, and then we can work with our chief to figure out how we're going to mitigate that. Okay.
Thank you.
Up and informing us of this. Thank you.
Mayor.
Yes.
I'd like to ask the chief if he can look into this issue and then report back to the city council, because this is really extraordinary. So I'd like to make sure that we are, being fully responsive, and we need to curtail any gun violence in our community. So I'd like to get a report back on this.
Yes, ma'am.
Great, thank you, Chief. And then our next speaker.
Hi, my name is Rosalba Rojas, and I'm here regarding about a problem that we have in the apartment. We have in this pandemic, the owner is gonna send us out for 3 days, and she's not responding for the days that we're gonna be out. We have a copies for everything, and it's gonna be a big fumigations. And she told us that whatever place that we have to leave, we gotta find out by our own. She's not helping us in anything. And there's so many problems, Sony. She charged a couple times extra money, increased the rent with no anything. But especially right now in the pandemic, we don't supposed to get increased the rent. She did. And we have copies for everything. Every time she told us that when it was 7 people in the apartment, she charges for more than a year, $200 extra. When we ask for help, they get a fumigation, clean the, repair something, she's not doing it. I was here before a couple times in the city, bringing all of the copies and papers, and nobody went and do anything. I went to El Monte too. I have copies on everything, and all of us, we don't have a place to live. It's a time for school, and we don't know what we're gonna do. A lot of the other people supposed to come, but some of them, they cannot come because the school the little kids has the COVID, so they cannot go outside. So right now it's a small group of people, but everybody has a different issue. Like I said, we have copies for everything that they went increase the rents and everything. And she's so aggressive when we ask questions about it. Why did you do those things? And she doesn't respond to us. And the last time that she increased $200 for just one point to the other, I asked her, so what is going on? Is like, and his answer was, if you guys don't like it, you guys can leave and find somebody else. That's it.
When is she scheduling this fumigation for?
Supposed to be on the 24, 25, and 26. And the only thing that she's giving us is $50 for a day. And I had the copies with the paper that she sent us to us. And when the guy for the fumigation went to the complex and explained to us about it, I asked him or how long she knows about this. And his answer was a few months ago.
Okay. Ben, can you get their information? So it's going to be the 24th, 25th, and 26th, the fumigation.
Correct.
And also the information about the rent increases to see what's going on with that and see what we can do about those 3 days, please.
Yeah, and then if our chief deputy could maybe, if you could take their documents, if they're copies, then we can hold on to them. If not, then maybe you can make some copies of those. I did speak to your neighbor yesterday, and we are going to follow up on this. In the past couple of months, the city has made real efforts to make sure that we enforce our ordinance, right? Nobody is above municipal law. As a tenant, as a renter, as somebody who pays your rent, you have rights, especially now during the pandemic. And I want to thank all of you for coming out here and expressing your concerns, because a lot of the times the city isn't able to do anything because we don't know that these issues are out there. So
I'm sorry. And another thing that we know that because every time that she does a little bit something or nothing, she increased the rent. So if she does this fumigation, I bet you a month later, she's going to be like, this is another extra increase, because that's the way she does. Like she paint outside the apartment and we're like, we don't need a paint outside. We need so many things inside to fix it. And she increased the rent because she paint the house up outside. And all of them has like different issues. There's so many things and what's going on it.
yes. So please connect with our chief deputy city clerk or Maria, and Maria will help you help us get some relevant information. And then please take down their information, their street address, unit numbers, and
phone numbers.
Phone numbers.
All right. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. So she's going to go and make some copies.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, the housing division will follow up with the city attorney's office in looking into this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Great. Next, anybody else looking to speak?
Hi, my name is Juan Mondragon. I want to congratulate everybody on everything you guys have been doing. It's been amazing. It's coming home for me. I grew up in Baldwin Park. I went to Baldwin Park High School, and this is amazing. So I want to thank you guys for all the hard work you guys are doing. I'm here today to thank the council, for this opportunity to talk to you guys. I'm here representing Don Verde LLC, an applicant to the cannabis licensing program to the city of Baldwin Park. This is an enticing opportunity to partner with the city, and in doing so, we are committed to generating tax revenues and creating jobs to the benefit of the Baldwin Park community. As excited as our team is, our journey to date has had a few bumps. Last November, we began our search for a location. This past February, we initiated the application process and submitted the application in March. On May 20th, we received confirmation from the planning department that we would begin negotiations for development agreement. Unfortunately, on the same date, we were informed that the entire application process was placed on hold pending the search and hiring of a new cannabis attorney. This 3-month delay has cost our company approximately $50,000. This represents capital neither spent to the benefit of Baldwin Park or ourselves. Following the last communication from staff in May, our first contact with the city was an email from planning requesting further information that was not outlined as part of the original application process, along with the request for additional clarification on information already included in our application that has already been reviewed and approved to enter the development agreement stage. We are in the process of finishing our response and gathering all supporting documentation regarding these additional requests and will submit shortly. As a firm, our management and ownership team have successfully completed similar projects in various jurisdictions. We appreciate the recent changes to procedures made by the City Council and that are necessary to streamline the process going forward. As such, we are honored to be the first group through, and we acknowledge that we will help shape the standard by which those who follow will be evaluated. In looking forward to our partnership with the City of Baldwin Park and its residents, we want to take the speaking opportunity to ask for a viable and actionable timeline to receiving a license. Our team has worked diligently with the city staff up to this point, and they've been great. And we would like to understand any changes or expectations that may further delay this process. In addition, we would request that the timeline be expedited to more closely resemble the original timeline described to our team back in February. This would imply completion of the licensing process by September 30th. In conclusion, as in many things in life, time is the most expensive component of any budget. Your help today with our request for an expedited timeline and details on next steps moving forward will allow us to plan and capitalize our entity adequately. Our goal is to build an infrastructure to help pave the way to job creation and generation of tax revenue for the City of Baldwin Park. Every month that we are delayed, we are spending capital in a manner.
Sorry, your time is up.
Thank you for your kind considerations.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
I do want to thank you for coming. I know that, and I think it's important for the community to know. As you know, there was changes to our cannabis operations as we look to make it a more transparent and, of course, streamlined process. We've hired a completely separate cannabis attorney to handle only our cannabis business. But we look forward to partnering with you. And Ben, maybe we can get a staff report on what the timeline is and how we can mitigate that slowdown.
Yes, Mayor, I'd be happy to do that, and I'll provide my cell phone number to you, and we can talk tomorrow morning. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate your guys' time. You're doing great, by the way. This is great.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Council. I wanted to ask, as you all know, school has started, and I am coming to ask you guys if it's possible that the city or PD do a traffic study at Puente and Willow. I know there's a stop sign at Route and Puente, but being that these high school kids, and the reason why I'm coming to you, my daughter is in high school at Baldwin Park, and she goes to my sister's house on Willow after school. And being there, picking her up and seeing these students run across the street with these cars zooming by is don't want to hope nothing happens, but if we can do that, maybe post a police car there after school, because these cars do not stop for the kids, even at the stop sign, and all these kids are crossing over there at Willow and Puente, crossing the street. So hopefully we can do something about that. Maybe put one of those flashing lights to have them slow down, but hopefully that can happen. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Sam, can you take note of that area, please?
Absolutely, Mayor.
Anybody else looking to speak?
Mayor, City Council, John Rios. I gave you some pictures, Mayor and CO, that I took over the weekend about street vendors, okay? It's getting worse. They're not even buying by Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now they're even out right now. They're out there. Like coming over here, there's a one in front of churches. I talked to the gentleman from Superior, and he says if we need to, he'll send his lawyers in to talk. Then we have another complaint in front of In-N-Out Burger. There's a large truck parked right there in front of them. On an empty lot is right there. You know, they don't have the permits from the city. All the revenue that these street vendors are doing is giving them, not giving the city. Like the supermarkets are saying, you know, a lot of the stuff that we prepare, we have to throw it out because we don't sell it. Because they're outside selling stuff out there. I think it's time for us to put our foot down. If they don't have the permits, a health permit, the licenses, the insurance that they're supposed to have, that's something that we need to do as soon as possible. Okay? But the last time I talked to you, Mayor, I said you were doing good. The reason I said that was you don't turn around and call us liars like the ex-mayor did. You know, anything we said, even with facts, figures, and everything, he would turn around and say, oh, no, they can do whatever they want. It's a free country and this, and they can talk whatever they want to. They're a bunch of liars. And you've been here, what, 8 months? And you still haven't turned around and said, oh, no, they're lying. Anything we bring up here, it's all true. But we do the research in front. We don't come over here to put you down or anything. We just want response. Like I say, you need to start going to the neighborhoods and see, so that people can see who you are. So far, they ask me and I tell them, he's doing good. That's all.
Anybody else looking to speak?
Greg Tuttle, business owner, Baldwin Park. I want to first follow up with the street vendors. The problem we're having is that we don't have code enforcement on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now, to kind of help Ben Martinez, that seems to be running that department, makes over $100,000 a year. Let me give him a little suggestion. You make one of the code enforcements work 40 hours a week, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. The next code enforcement, the two other ones work, split the shifts, Monday through Thursday, Thursday through Sunday. It's really simple. We can have code enforcement all week long. We run into this problem also with parking, and the chief's been very helpful for me with Royal Coaches. And this is what needs to happen. Code enforcement needs to be 7 days a week, not 4 days a week. Then I want to go on to the lawsuit. And I think it's very important that the new council, excluding Monica Garcia, put out there that they're not responsible for all these major lawsuits that's happening right now. And the lawsuit that just got settled, thank God we're quit wasting attorney fees because of Tafoya's lack of experience on doing lawsuits. We need to understand that it was Monica Garcia Lozano and Monica Garcia and Marlene Garcia that cost us the $7 million with the Lily Hatzel, because they brought in a chief that was inexperienced. She didn't even apply to be the police chief. And she said, I wasn't experienced, but they brought her in because it'd be the first Latino woman and in our city. That didn't help us. It cost us a $7 million lawsuit. Now with the Salcido deal with Lozano, Monica Garcia in there, we have Salcido. Salcido was brought in to do corruption, but he found out Pacheco was a bigger corrupt person than Lozano. Now we're paying $4.9 million for this mistake, which isn't got anything to do with the council, but you need to explain that to the citizens because they see in the newspaper and they attribute it to you. You need to make sure that they understand this is not from your thing of your doing. This is from the old council. This is why we put the new council in here. We need to make sure that the people know that. Now then, we have another thing with this Jeannie Alla and Lozano. I have papers here showing her messenger thing from the Facebook, buying boats, $50 for her and Lozano from students. She's trying to commit a felony with these students back in 018. We need to look into this because Lozano wouldn't look into it after that 018. But the thing is, this needs to be brought up. Isaac Galvin, he just got convicted on voter fraud. Now what do we do? So, time's up. Oh, didn't hear you.
Hello, City Council, residents of Baldwin Park. I asked you people up here, because you're supposed to be running the city. I asked if they could give me a financial report or show us something that we might be doing good. Well, it seems like it went out one ear and out the other. All the lawsuits that this city has, I should say, quote, city council, you people fire people and then you expect them to say, oh my God, that's great. Well, we out here say stupid. You fired a guy, made tons of money. Fired a one number while back, made a big bundle of money. How simple is it? Give a report. Have you guys seen the report? How much money we are in debt, not in debt, and so on and so on? Or you don't care? You're supposed to be working for us residents, but you don't seem to care. What do you got to do? Have a constitutional amendment for that person over there, the one on the end? Yeah, you should all look. Make a report so we could see quarterly, or maybe once a year, or maybe not at all, because that's the rate you people work. You should be able to give us a report, including all the residents that were here, that are left. That's why they don't stick around, because what you people discuss or say has nothing to do with us. You do whatever you wish. I'm going to ask you one more time. We should have a financial report. Did you guys read it or you just signed the paper? Mayor, did you just sign it and said, okay, it's all right? Your insurance must be costing us residents millions of dollars, and you can't get it through your head. Where are you going to get all this? Oh, the insurance will pay it. Like heck, you think it's free? There's nothing free in this country, no matter how much you think it is. Tons of money. I can imagine that if we fire somebody up here, how much they're going to make off of us. You know why? Because you don't fire people the right way. Number two, you people, we ask for something. If it's not a constitutional amendment, you people don't even look. The insurance that you guys pay and us residents is enormous. Think about it. You get in a car accident and your insurance goes up. That's what's happening to you people. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else looking to speak?
Mayor, council members, Mario Maciel, planning commissioner. I just wanted to state that I was at the meeting that I was invited to, where the residents came up to speak about the apartment complex at 3120 Fraser Street. And I will ask myself to please look into that, because there are some serious health issues that are going on there within the apartments they're living in. Besides the fact they're trying to fumigate the place and making them leave on their own terms, not doing what is right for the residents, which is to actually accommodate for them to actually have a place to go for those 3 days that the apartment complex is going to be fumigated. So I ask that you please do look into this, because there are some severe violations that the owner is failing to comply with, including our ordinance for no rent increases that was put in back when the pandemic started. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else looking to speak? If not, at this moment, I will close public communication. I tried to comment on most of these items as they came by. I know that food vending is has become a big topic here in our city over the past couple of months. And so, I think it's very important that, my constituents understand why I have the position that I have. And my position has always been that for some odd reason in Baldwin Park, we've had a very anti-Latino sentiment. And when I say this, I mean that when we look at our history, we have a track record of somehow always looking down upon a working class immigrant. I remember years ago, former council tried to ban day laborers from Home Depot. Years ago, street vending was banned. We had the whole ordeal with taking away cars from undocumented immigrants who had no licenses at the time. When it came down to the potential revitalization of the downtown area, we referred to our Latino-owned businesses as amigo stores. So I myself, as someone who prides himself in where I come from, I cannot sit here and enforce policies that I don't think make sense. If you look back to the history of the street vending ordinance, it was passed in a fast manner because it was legalized because of state law. So the cities had to pass something in order to keep their local jurisdiction on that issue. So when I ask about this, it doesn't seem that anybody knows how plausible it really is to follow that permit process. And so if I'm sitting here and I'm supporting a potential process that I know has no real logic to it, then I am part of that problem that I had been trying to change. We are working on a permit process. We're making sure that it is effective. We're looking at best practices from cities all around the state. We're looking at, I think, Ontario. We're looking at other areas in the LA County, San Bernardino, and we're making sure that we are going to make a permit process that makes sense and that then we can enforce. But I personally wouldn't sit here and enforce a policy that I know does not make any sense. But yes, I agree with all of you. We can enforce a policy once it is set in stone. We can encourage these people to get a permit. That's the most thing that's the very least that they can do. If they want to street vend, they can follow the procedure and we can make sure that it is most of all viable. And I think that is the key word when it comes to policies and city ordinances, that we have to make sure that they are viable and that they make sense. I know, so as I said, I really encourage all of you to look into that street vending idea. I know that Ben is currently working on it. We will have a study session on it soon to start reworking that process. And I tell everybody, unfortunately, government doesn't always work as fast as it could. If I could, I'd write the ordinance myself, but it doesn't work that way, right? And there's readings and there's a process to how things comes to the council. But we hear all of you, and as a council, I do believe that we, when we sit here, we try to make the best compromise to please, at the very least, the majority of the city. And I'll leave it at that.
Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you. I just want to address misinformation that was provided earlier during public communications. And just be really clear that former Chief Lily Hadsell was awarded $7 million because of the way that she was terminated by the city. And who terminated Chief Lily Hadsell? It was council members Cruz Baca, Ricardo Pacheco, and Susan Rubio. That was in 2013. Fast forward to 2017, we had another chief, Chief Salcedo, who was terminated by the city. Who terminated Chief Salcedo? Cruz Baca, Ricardo Pacheco, and Susan Rubio. This week, we learned about an award of a settlement of 4.9 million to Salcedo. Why? Because of the way he was terminated by the city. So it's not about the hiring of these individuals. It was about how the city fired them. And so that's why they they're going to walk away with millions of dollars. I also want to make it really clear that Mayor Lozano and I, Monica Garcia, we opposed the termination. That means that we were against their firings. That's it. Thank you.
And so, as we reach headlines, I do believe that when we talk about lawsuits, it goes beyond the firing. And I think that when we talk about Lily Hatzel, she was fired. And of course she sued, but she sued because she had claimed that she wasn't being listened to prior to being fired. And one of the concerning things that we heard was that a former member of the council, when the type of degradation that she was feeling came to his attention, the quote was, "I don't care if Taylor is an a-hole. He's like a brother to me and he's not going anywhere." And though that person didn't vote for that firing, that in itself is part of the lawsuit. So these lawsuits are not just about who fired them. It's about what happened when they were working here. These are at-will contracts. This idea that you're going to get a lawsuit because you got fired is not valid. And I think that when we talk about these lawsuits, I think that we have to be talking about in complete detail. What's startling about that is that no one ever talked about that. We always talk about how important it is to make sure that women are empowered in the workplace, that we have equity, and that we have a diverse system. Nobody ever questioned that comment that there might be that type of degradation for a woman chief of police. After that said accused individual became our chief of police. And after that, he got a contract that was completely questionable because the only way he could get fired was if he committed a felony. So there is a lot of stuff, and I don't think that we are going to get to it. I do think that we all have to keep in mind that there are more claims and suits that the city will deal with, and a lot of these comments won't age well.
Mayor.
Hold on, I'm talking, and that goes out. And so I do want to make that clear. This isn't about who fired who. It's about what happened before they got fired, and why they believe they got fired. But as of that,
Mayor.
I'm talking. So I do want to make that clear. I hear this narrative all the time, but if we're going to talk about lawsuits, we do have to mention all of that. And I do implore the community to pay attention to all that. And I do want to let the community know that we moved away from that we are not hiring friends here, that we are making transparent process in how we hire Enrique and how we hire our chief of police, and that we've changed things. 2 meetings ago, we changed we restructured our police department with the support of the unions from PD. We're doing things that are going to make sense so that we avoid these things in the future. And as the new mayor with my colleagues, I am proud to be able to say that. So yes, go ahead, Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you. Excuse me. And that is your opinion, and I respect that is your opinion and your understanding. I do want to say that, yes, this is absolutely the settlement of this week and the award that was provided by a jury in the past. They were absolutely about how these individuals were terminated by the city. And to address some of your comments this evening, actually, former Chief Lily Hatzel was attacked by some individuals here in this audience time and again. And why? Because she's a woman. But, our city council, we stood up for her, we defended her. And I will say that one of the reasons why I supported her as chief was because I fully appreciated her view of connecting our police department with the community. And I will say, and I will give her credit, that a lot of our changes from the police department and how they've reached out to the community started with former Chief Lily Hatzel. And that was one of the reasons why I chose her over other candidates, including Mike Taylor, at the time that she was appointed. Secondly, there was a council member on the city council who, engaged in inappropriate behavior by yelling at her and demanding things of her and trying to intimidate her. It was brought to our attention and we censored that council member. So I think that, your opinion is one opinion, your perspective is one perspective. Bottom line is there's a lot more history, and I was actually on the council when these things were happening. So I know firsthand.
And I've been attacked by the same individuals who attacked Chief Lily Hadsel. So she has my sympathy and my support. Unfortunately, you know, some people just want to take that tone with women in authority positions. That's their prerogative. But to say that we didn't provide the support or we didn't respond, I will also say that at the time that Chief Lily Hadsel was terminated by the three individuals I mentioned earlier, Cruz Baca, Ricardo Pacheco, and Susan Rubio, that she had just filed a complaint against somebody in the department, and that was completely ignored by the three individuals that terminated her. And that was one of the reasons why the jury, you know, went in the direction that they did in settling $7 million. So there's a lot more to the story. And then as far as Chief Salcedo, again, the same three council members terminated him. And, you know, it has nothing to do with anything that I told him or that somebody told, hearsay, you know, he said, she said. It was simply the way that he was terminated by those three individuals. And that's why the settlement, you know, that's what resulted in the settlement. So anyway, those are just opinions and perspectives. And bottom line is there are three council members that were responsible for those two terminations, which led to millions of dollars being, you know, awarded as a result. So anyway, that's what I wanted. I just wanted to address the misinformation that was shared earlier. Thank you.
Great. So we're all going to have different opinions and perspectives. There's no use in crying over spilt milk. I encourage the audience and our residents to do their due diligence and become involved residents of the city so that you too follow along and know what is and what is not going on. At this point, we are moving on and we are moving on to our consent calendar. City Council, is there anybody looking to pull an item? Yeah. Oh, I was going to, oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Is there any other item? If not, I will make a motion to pass items number 1 through 3. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any objections? Thank you. And then we move on to item number 4. Councilmember Hernandez, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, just want to bring this up as it relates to, you know, again, providing services for our seniors. You know, there are individuals that do require this dial-a-ride service, you know, for folks, you know, when they're going to medical appointments. And so we just want to make sure that one, you know, the Southland continues to provide, you know, the best excellent service. And, you know, I would encourage for us to perhaps, you know, when it's safe to do so, you know, participate in some of these routes that they're doing to make sure that we're providing the best service for our residents. Because again, these are some of our also perhaps some of the vulnerable communities that get treated differently and are exploited. So I want to make sure that, you know, the service and our partners that we bring into the city have that level of excellence as if they were providing service for their own parents. That's what my expectation for this individual, and we'll make sure to keep them accountable. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. And you brought up a good point. And so Sam, I know that this is talking about dial-a-ride and also the pumpkin line and all the other lines. Is that correct?
Yes, it includes the dial-a-ride, the pumpkin line, the teal line, and the Baldwin Park Express line, the trolley buses.
Great. And I think that's great. So, and I do kind of want to double up on Councilmember Hernandez's concerns. I know that when we were at the input meeting, one of the things that people talked about was a better public transportation system. So I wanted to see if this was an opportunity to for the council to maybe have a study session or something and understand how these routes are working, how we can better them. I know sometimes people talk about they're not on schedule, or you know, all the bus drivers are taking lunch at once, so it throws off the route. And then, you know, if people are waiting on public transportation, they're kind of stuck in limbo, right? So right now that the items is up, I did want to see you know, what the possibilities are of bettering our routes, bettering a more structured time schedule for these buses, because then that way we can also better promote them to the community.
Yeah, absolutely, Mayor. So in the narrative, the staff report, we do touch upon that. We are planning to do a study. This is the reassessment of the routes and rerouting and improving the system wherever we can. So that is included in the budget.
Mayor?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, and touching on item 4 as well, I agree with you. I've had a lot of people tell me that the line is not on time, and there's actually more people that don't even know about the services. So if we can look at setting an outreach out there so more people are informed, because again, more people are not even informed. They don't know that they can actually call and have somebody pick them up. So if we can do a better outreach to make sure it gets out there for every single one of our residents. Thank you.
Yeah, and we also want to keep in mind our the residential area by Walnut Creek. I know that sometimes they feel a little bit left out because of the area that they're in. So we want to make sure that they also have access to a lot of these services.
Absolutely.
So we're keeping these considerations in mind. The staff recommend that we pass this.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I may just add, again, as we're moving towards, I want to make sure that we have the flexibility as we're adding these homeless services, that we're also able to provide them access to our major transportation hubs through a shuttle or whatever the case might be. And just to be mindful of that as we're moving forward over the next, hopefully 6 months or 8 months here, please.
Absolutely.
Great. So with those concerns, what is staff's recommendation on this?
Yeah, staff recommends that council approve the third amendment to Southland Transit's contract.
Great. Councilmember Hernandez, would you like to make a motion?
Yep, I'd like to make a motion to adopt and pass item number 4 as stated. Thank you.
And I'll second. Is there any objections? If not, item 4 passes, and we move on to the City Council acting as a successor agency of the DeSalle Community Development Commission consent calendar. I believe we only have, is that a public hearing for that item or is it separate? Okay, so at this moment, I'll make a motion to pass the consent calendar for the successor agency. Can I get a second? Any objections? If not, that motion passes. And I believe we are at a public hearing, and that is the adoption of resolution number 2021-026, adjusting rates for Baldwin Park resident-owned utility district, continued public hearing. And I believe staff recommends that this city council continue the public hearing to the regularly scheduled city council meeting of October 6th, 2021. And I believe we are waiting on some information to be able to make a better decision.
That is correct, Mayor. We are finishing up a reevaluation report as the council instructed us to do so, which will look at all of the merit indicators that were used in awarding or in forming the CCA, the Joint Powers Authority, Power Authority, Be Proud, that is. So we will be bringing back that report to council on that date, October 6th, by which time the council can make your best informed decision.
Mayor?
How to move forward.
Sorry, I have a
Yes,
question.
Huh?
Is there any way we can meet prior to that meeting so we can have enough time to review this? And if we have questions for you in regards to the report that you get, that way when we do have the actual meeting, we understand it
Yes,
perfectly.
that is the plan. Mayor Pro Tem, we will have individual briefings first.
Mhm.
And we have 1 week to be able to do that, the last week of September and going into the first 2 days of October. And then based on that, if there's a need for a study session or something along those lines, then we will do that.
Perfect.
But we're definitely moving fast to be able to meet the timeline.
Thank you. Perfect.
Great, so. Great, so at this moment, I will make a motion to continue adoption of resolution number 2021-026. I will continue the public hearing for item number 5, adoption of a resolution number 2021-026, adjusting rates for Baldwin Park resident-owned utility district. And I will continue that till the meeting of October 6th, 2021. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any objections? If not, that public hearing is now moved to October 6th, 2021. At this point, we are at the report of officers. City Manager, would you like to introduce us to this item?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you so very much. This is another area in which a great deal of work has been going on by both the staff and you, the city council. And now starting earlier this week, also the engagement and the contributions and input from the residents. So a great collaborative effort in being able to come up with what we call the best and highest use of the American Recovery Act funding, 22 million roughly for the city of Baldwin Park. You have made some preliminary guidelines. You have given us some general direction up until this point. Some of that is that as a general indication so far is that we would go with a 50-50 split of the funding, meaning 50% for direct community investments and community services. That's about $11 million in change. The other would be also for resident benefit, for the benefit of the residents, but it would be through city departments, projects that the departments would be recommending to the city council, or programs that would be of benefit of the city residents, but through city departments. So we have made a great deal of progress in some of the categories to the point that today we have brought 2 projects for your consideration. Along the way, we have been developing a list of potential projects, some of which are further along in refinement. Others are still in preliminary stage. But, you know, for today, we definitely want you to look at what we have so far, weigh in on what you think. In addition to what we're recommending 2 projects to be funded today. At this point, they're sort of at the entitlement stage. The intent is that they will come back. We will come back with more refinement in the case of one of the projects, which is the city yard. That one will require a set of drawings, plans, design, and feasibility reports and things of that nature that will come back to the city council for approval. The other recommendation today that we feel is ready to get going in earnest is the acquisition of 20 police vehicles for the police department and the reliability of service to the city residents. So with that, you know, I know you will have a great deal of interest in discussing and in reviewing the entirety of the program.
Great. And then, so I did just want, Sam, can you clarify? So you don't actually need the 2.7 today?
Yeah, that is correct. So the approval today will just sort of fund the project for the entire span. But like Enrique mentioned, we need to get going on the feasibility study and design. So we anticipate that year 1, we're not going to use the entirety of what's funded. It's just going to fund what we need to do this year and set an outlay for next year for the next allocation.
So even if, because we're already mid-August, so I think at least the way I've seen it is, you know, we have 23 million in total. We're safeguarding, we're earmarking half for the community and half for, you know, what I would say vital modernization of all of our departments. So to me, I think the goal is to make sure that we have enough funds to get through the community service aspect from here until next year, which is when we will get the rest of the money. And we do have a safe allotment to also get modernization going into our city hall. So it sounds like we can allocate enough for you to start the process, but we don't have to move forward with the completion of this until the next funding round.
Right. Yeah, and the project will come back to council as we progress. So, you know, study sessions for input, and once we have visibility reports and preliminary plans, we'll engage with the council along the way.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you. Again, staff, appreciate all the time and effort that's gone into this. Just I have a few questions specifically, at least for right now. I'll speak to the other ones. Regarding the police cars, what's the current life cycle on those right now, Chief, if you don't mind?
They're anywhere between, our vehicles anywhere between 10 and 15 years of age. So, and some of the vehicles are are the ones that run 24 hours a day. So that's the concerns that I have with the vehicles. The reliability, plus the cost that that we can incur repairing those vehicles. So the amount that we're allotting, and it wouldn't be all 20 at one time. It'll be in segments. We're looking at 7 black and whites, and it's the outfitting of the black and whites, the computers, the lights, and retrofitting all the black and whites, and then making sure that it's a safety issue for the officers as well as the community for our response.
So again, of the 20 vehicles that you're looking at, can you break that down as to how they're being utilized? You said 7 are for black
Right,
and
so
white?
it would be 7, probably approximately 14 black and whites, and the rest of detectives. But we're still looking at which ones are the oldest, which would need to be replaced. So I'm working with Sam and Anthony to determine the life cycle and which ones are more apt to fail.
No, I understand. I would ask if, perhaps you could really look at, reducing it from 20 to 15.
Okay.
And prioritize, the vehicles that are more towards the end. Because I think that'll save us, I don't know, what's the current cost per vehicle?
And again, these are we're leasing the vehicles.
Leases, yes.
We're not purchasing these vehicles because then it would cost a lot more money to purchase them. So these are just leases. So the lease is 3 years, I believe.
Yeah, it could be anywhere between 3 years and 5 years. But what this does, this allocation is going to do, police vehicles have to be outfitted with aftermarket equipment.
Yep,
So this allows us to pay that up front and only lease the vehicle. So it saves us money in that way.
Okay, thank you. I would still ask if we can do the 15 cars, if we can reduce that, because again, what my hope would be is the remaining balance of that moves into the community allocation component. And perhaps what we can do with the other remaining 5 is look at other CIP projects that we have there, any cost savings and so forth, or others that we're modifying or replacing with some of this funds, that we can do that. My other concern is, again, is essentially using 23% of the funds that we're allocating for the city side for the departments that are going to come out of the public works. That's close to $2.5 million. I see that as a significant amount of money that can go back into our community and help support them. So I wouldn't be necessarily supportive of the 2 million, but I do support upgrading the garage and so forth, so the conditions for your staff and your workers are able to work in a more safer, conducive environment. This thing with the records, I just don't see it right now. I understand that. Another thing that we have here is counselor chambers upgrades. Looking for $1 million for that here in our chambers. I don't know if that's chairs or audio, or what are we looking at that? Can anybody provide us some input?
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Hernandez. Yes, we can provide some input in regards to the council chambers. We would like to add new audio visual equipment, lighting, sound system, reupholster, paint, and I think that pretty much covers it. Carpet, flooring, and I think pretty much a remodel. We're not going to tear it down or anything of that nature, just give it a fresh coat of paint. And I think the audio visual will be the most expensive element.
Okay. I would just, when we bring this item back, is perhaps we can maybe prioritize the user experience of our audience and the audio video equipment. Obviously, we've had some troubles, and making it easier for them to view the PowerPoints that we have. So I'm certainly in support of, looking at that as that comes back. But the replacement of 20 cars at this time, I can't necessarily support the 20. But if we were to look down to 15, I think I'd be very comfortable with that, including that we can look at the BIP for some of those replacements for the other 5. I want you to get your 20, Chief, but I also want to make sure that we're allocating this fund appropriately. And again, when it comes to the upgrade of the city yard maintenance, Sam, roughly of the 2.5 or 2.7 that we have here, how much would it take for you to, make the yard for the garage a priority in the fixes? So that way, your staff can work in a safer and comfortable environment as we move forward.
Yeah, so there are several issues that we looked at that are in dire need of upgrades. The original amount that we come up with before we settled on the 2.5, it was about double that. So, we need to replace fuel tanks. The roofs are leaking. Warehouses are flooding. Our guys in the mechanic shop are working outside. The whole facility has very lousy internet. There is no asset management system. There's no work order system. So there's a lot that is involved in the entire upgrade. We want to bring the facility up to, standards.
So again, what's the cost for this records room out of this 2.7?
So the records room is estimated to be at 200,000.
Okay. I would just say, remove that out of it. Because again, if you're telling me this is to replace the room, the roof, the structure, the bays, making them larger so the vehicles could go inside and work on those, during the summer and during the winter, I'm in supportive of that. But again, we're looking at, for that particular item, that's 23% of the budget that the city departments are going to get. And, I'm all for, improving, but, again, there are CIPs, there are bonds that we could look at that could help us, and more importantly, put some of this big money back into the community that our residents can look at. This is money that I see where we could subsidize all the youth programs and all their costs for us entirely. So that's, and more importantly, also all the coffee and all the other accoutrements for our senior centers for when we get that up and running. So, there's very little here in and around that for our seniors. So I just want to make sure that we're clear as to what we're looking at spending our money. Thanks, sir.
Mayor, if I may?
Yes, Councilmember Damian.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I was actually going over the list as well. And Sam, the total cost of the project that you're anticipating is 2.5 million?
Yes, that is correct. So it's 2.5 million, excluding the 200,000 for the documents records room. So that would be a total of 2.7 if we include the records retention room.
And so if we authorize for you to, or approve the $500,000 that you're going to need for the design and the feasibility study for this project, we're basically tied to that 2.5 million, correct?
Not necessarily. What this does is just sets aside, the money. What we would be spending this year would only be somewhere around 500 or 600 for the design. The rest of the money would be programmed and added to the CIP and programmed in that form for an outlay year, which is the next year. And at that time, it'll come back to the city council for approval.
Sam, Councilmember Damian, perhaps something to consider based on your comments and Councilmember Hernandez's comments. If we get approval to move ahead with the feasibility and the design piece of it, we come back with a far more careful and far more precise list of things that will be included in the total rehab and modernization of the plant. At that point, you can also look at what you would be comfortable approving, and then we can take other pieces out. The 2.5 was intended to be a placeholder in the total number.
Correct.
And not because we know exactly what the cost is, but we will get to a much more precise number. And then at that stage, you can tell us, remove this, do not do that, and we will be able to tell you with far more accuracy what is super critical and what is not.
Mayor, are you, go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were done.
That's okay. I as well as Councilmember Hernandez have concerns that I know that our facilities are in dire need of upgrades. I get it. I would rather see minimal upgrades to the facilities and focus more of our money into things that are going to benefit the community, the residents. Like our public facilities. Those are things that our residents enjoy. But the public works yard, the council chambers, like you said, something that's going to allow for our residents to be able to participate. I'm in agreement with. I don't know if $1 million is necessary to spend on the council chambers, but I would like to see more of the funding going to the residents, to the community. We just acknowledged our great volunteers with the senior program, delivery program. It's to my understanding that program funding has ended. We can use some of these ARP funds to continue that program and the delivery meals. So I would feel more comfortable if we can kind of look at different ways where we can minimize the spending on the upgrades of the facilities. If we can maybe do the case study only and not the feasibility study, the design, maybe that could be something that would work.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilmember Garcia.
thank you. I'm in agreement with Councilmember Damian and Councilmember Hernandez and Enrique. It's like you read my mind, because I did want to understand more of the breakdown of improvements at the Public Works Yard. I do think that we need improvements there, and I want to put them where they are most needed and where we will maximize the investment. But I also am not understanding clearly, the allocation of 2.5 million and what the results of that will be. So for me, I would like to understand a breakdown of the project and be able to, pick and choose what is most necessary. I agree that we should be looking at the community programs, especially with some of the moratoriums that will be lifted soon. At this point, we can't really anticipate the need, but going off of existing responses during COVID, I would absolutely agree with Councilmember Damian that, we do need to offer this food assistance and other programs at the ARP input meeting on Monday. I really appreciated the community input, and there was mention of investing in programs that have been eliminated by the school district, and so that our seniors can enjoy the quality of life here in Baldwin Park that they've come to enjoy and appreciate. And it's just part of this what the spirit of this community. So I'd like to just be minimalist when it comes to our facilities, and make sure that our community they're the greatest beneficiaries of these monies. It's a significant amount, and I do recognize that it feels like there's plenty of money for these various allocations. But like I was looking at the line item for the improvement of bathrooms across our park facilities, and I wonder if 750,000 is enough for the parks and for City Hall and for all of our city facilities. So it's kind of premature for me to say yes, I can support a $2.5 million allocation for one pocket of our community. So that said, I would absolutely agree with what was proposed about just keeping it minimal. And when it comes to the public works review, I'd like to see the breakdown of the projects, and then we can take a further, closer look at, I think, what is necessary and then what the investment will be at that point.
Mayor?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. First, I have a question. The record retention, who uses that? Be you, Lulu? Can you explain to us, and I know it's you, I was the city clerk for a while. Can you explain the importance of the record retention, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. So currently we don't have anywhere to house our records. And we are mandated by law to hold our records for a certain amount of time. We do have a retention schedule that is adopted by the city council. And currently, our staff is outsourcing that. We're sending those boxes to Iron Mountain, and we're paying a monthly fee on that. So the goal is to house all our records here in the Public Works Yard, but the Public Works Yard would need an upgrade, and it would be significant. The room has to be fireproof to store the historical records like ordinances, like resolutions and minutes. Those are permanent records that do need to be stored in a secure location. I have a vault that is very small, and everyone uses it. It's not centralized. It's really, it hasn't even really been looked at. We haven't had the time to even bring a consultant in to look at those records. And I feel like it's something that's very, very important. And this is the only request that the city clerk's office is requesting. We're not requesting additional projects aside from an upgrade for a kiosk, with the council chambers update for agenda review.
Thank you for that. And the reason I brought that up is because when I became city clerk, that's the first thing that I learned, that we did not have a record retention area. And I have been in that vault where back when I was started as a city clerk, it was already full. And so I know it is very important to add a records retention because it is a headache. They need to have all these documents feasible to them. So I do feel the record retention room is important. And yes, that will cost money because like she said, it has to be fireproof, waterproof, or what have you. So I'm definitely in favor of that record retention. As far as the facility itself, I would want to make sure that we improve any area that has to do with safety of our employees. It is important that they're working in a safe environment, maybe not the whole facility, but focus on the areas that are not safe at this time. And them working out in the sun, in this heat, them working in a place that gets flooded when they may be using something electrical, that's a safety issue. And that, to me, that's important that they need to fix. Again, I agree with my colleagues. I would like to see, and you probably already have it on there, a more detail on prioritizing the items and put the safety items first. And I really would like to focus on those areas because I think the safety of our employees is first. I know you need an upgrade on all your computers and everything that has to do with your systems, but I think the safety of your team comes first. And with time, maybe we can find other ways to get money to get those upgrades. But if we can look at that and look at the cost of what it'd be for something like that. As far as the sound for the chambers, since I started as well, we have had many complaints. I think it is priority to fix the sound, to fix the camera. I know when people get on YouTube, which a lot of people do, they have a hard time hearing, they can't see. So the system has gone out many times where we had to stop the meeting and they actually brought a small recorder to use it because our system would go out, and it's still the same system. So I know for a fact it needs upgrading. So I'm not completely in favor of the whole amount, but I am in favor, again, of the safety of our employees to make sure we fix those areas, the retention record, and to make sure that we fix all our sound system here and the chambers. And if we have a list of priorities, I think we can better focus on a number of a smaller number so that we can benefit everybody, benefit our employees, benefit our community, and then whatever's left over, we can bring it over to our residents to provide more services. Thank you.
Yeah, so I do want to speak and, I do want the council to also take a different perspective to this. And that is that, yes, this money is to make once in a generation changes, and I'm a big proponent of that, to fund all Parks and Rec service, including seniors and youth. I believe it costs less than $300,000 annually. We've done the math on that. With ARP, we'll be able to fund that for 4 years. And I know I've spoken to Ben about finding a more permanent source of funding throughout these 4 years, and that includes, looking at some of our DAs and moving away from a mitigation fee into a parks and recreation fee, which is feasible. It's happened in other cities. And I do want to speak in support of some of these items. It's not, the 23 million don't have to go directly to the hands of the residents. And, a lot of the facilities, and not all of our facilities, are outdated. They are complete time capsules. Our staff has worked diligently, not just through the pandemic, but through the years. And many of them have been here for decades, if not more. And, I do think that we need to keep our staff in mind. These are the people that come into these buildings, and they're the ones that are here on the daily. And, as some staff knows, I like to spend a lot of time at City Hall, and, whenever I can, I do walk around, I take a tour. I went to the basement of the PD. I remember, I saw the list and it said chairs, like, why do we need chairs? I go down to the basement, and I look at PD, and every single chair down there is completely torn apart. So this isn't a direct, some of these aren't direct efforts to benefit the community, but they do in the long run benefit the community, right? Because we've modernized our systems. We're upgrading our systems so that there's better communication, so that there's better services, and we don't get a monetary return on investment, but we boost morale in the workplace. If I remind all of you, when we were looking at our budget, how many positions many of our departments were looking to open, and we pretty much said no to all of them until we would come back and figure out a way to do that. So I do want to make sure that we keep our staff in mind. It's not just simply the buildings. It's not just simply things like that. City clerk is the only city clerk in our, well, of course, aside from our elected city clerk, she's chief deputy city clerk, but she doesn't have an assistant. She doesn't have anybody else working with her. And I know that at times it can get troubling, right? You get multiple requests for public records on the daily, on the weekly, and you have to meet those in a certain time. So that's the way I see a lot of these things. And I do think that, our staff is deserving of some upgrades, right? Boost morale in here, make people want to come to work and enjoy being at work. And I think that that's an important aspect to keep in mind. It's not a matter of just simply buying new things. It's really more of an investment in our staff and the equipment that they use on the daily. And then for PD, I personally do like the idea of them buying vehicles. I know that I spoke to them about taking advantage of this opportunity. And if they were willing to, they could, they could reimagine their police cars. And I think that that's another thing that's important, right? It's time to boost the morale of our police department. We just had another headline yesterday. And so it's important that we boost the morale of our police department, and that we show that there is a new page turning here at City Hall with our PD. We upgrade everything that they need, and they get to modernize with that. I've done some ride-alongs, right? And I've seen the cars inside are worn out, they're older, and that does make for some dangerous situations. If you're on a chase, if there's ball joints 10 years old, it might pop off, and it can lead to worse, right? So that's another thing. That's another critical component of our PD. And like I said, I think it's important that we boost the morale of our staff. So even though these things aren't going directly to our constituents, they are indirectly affecting them and the services and quality of those services that they will be receiving throughout the future.
Mayor, one more thing I forgot to add.
Yes.
I'm in agreement with the PD. I have gone on a few ride-alongs as well, and your vehicles do need new vehicles. Some of them, the radios or computers they have to hit them so they can come back on. They are very, very beat up in the inside, but I mean, that's just the inside. My concern is the mechanical part of it. They need to be safe. They need to be fast. What kind of cars are you getting, by the way?
We're getting hybrids.
Hybrids?
Yes, ma'am.
They're not as fast, sir. Anyways, I am in agreement of you getting new vehicles because they are needed. And so I'm okay with 20 vehicles, with most of them going to patrol. Not so much the detectives. I think the patrol are the ones that need the better vehicles. Everybody would like to have a nice vehicle, of course, but people out on patrol, where they spend all of their day, 12 hours, because it is 12 hours a day. They need to be in a comfortable car that everything works. I know a couple of cars right now don't have AC in this horrible heat and your staff is in full gear. So I definitely agree with the fact that we need those 20 vehicles. And again, it's not that I don't want the full upgrade. I want to make sure the staff is safe and I want to make sure that they're in a comfortable place to work. That's priority number one for me. And I know we need that. I need your men and women that are out there working that are safe. I want you to understand that. And I need the record retention room is priority. I agree with Lulu. It's a much needed room. But if we can cut back something, let's make that list, Sam, and let's look at it from there, but keeping safety first. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Yes, Councilmember
Go
Damian, go ahead.
Now, I was going to say, is there any way, because I understand the records room is important. Is there any way that we can incorporate that with the third floor remodel? I know those balconies outside of our council offices have never been used. So if there's going to be a remodel of the third floor, maybe we can explore the options of maybe, building that records room up on the third floor instead of the public works yard. I'm not in agreement with, I'm not against a lot of these things. To be honest with you, my biggest concern is the complete overhaul of the yard. I don't know if we need a complete overhaul. I know that there's some major things that we do need to address, and I'm in a full agreement of that, especially when it comes to the safety of our employees. But I think if we can maybe scale down the complete overhaul, other than that, I really don't have many other complaints about the rest of the items.
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Yes, Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you. So again, just a couple items, and then maybe perhaps we could work towards a consensus here. Lulu, with the record room that would be going into, at the Public Works, in how many years would that fill up?
It can fill up fairly quickly. I know the second floor did a remodel recently, and they placed all their records in the yard. That I haven't gone through them. Some records I have to retain for 10 years, and some I have to retain permanent. I would say.
So essentially, in a few years, we would be filling up that room again.
Yes. However, so what if we transfer our records to the yard? The plan would be to ensure that everyone is following the records retention schedule, and we're just storing records. And so we would have oversight. So a box would go in, a box would be destroyed. Essentially, we would.
Could we also, I don't know your record policy, but could we digitalize or perhaps give you the funds instead of actually building a room per se, that we give you the funds to digitalize the records and the paperwork management. So that way we don't have to have such a large room, and more importantly, everything's digitalized, and get away from, this paper base. Again, I do understand that there are certain records that we have to have, in physical copy. But my understanding is we can digitalize the vast majority of all that. Is that something that we can look at instead? That is correct. We do digitize a lot of our records. However, there are records that we have to maintain, like bids. A bid I have to maintain. I can digitize it, but I also have to maintain the hard copy for 10 years, and that fills up, a box easily. So we would be in the same situation 5 years from now, essentially, to some degree. Not if we maintain in good practice and we follow the register. Yeah, right. Not if we continue to destroy. I'm sure you guys will implement a great facility in that sense. Again, just to, perhaps come to a consensus as we move through this, as we, go through this dialogue. Councilmember Damian mentioned earlier that, I think the 500,000 would certainly help us and help Sam, for the future, while still giving us an opportunity to, look at that in more detail. I think most of us have kind of talked about that. The chief mentioned that, essentially 14 cars would be used for his patrol. I would ask for us to consider just, allocating the 15 cars instead of the 20. So that, addresses the key, issues that he has for the patrol. And we can look at CIP funds that could help augment those other additional 5. When it comes to Lulu, again, we can look at, keep it on the list, but let's look at ways that we could, help you, minimize the costs. As Councilmember Damian mentioned, perhaps there might be an easier way to, move it up on the 3rd floor in some of those areas, but let's just be creative. So I guess that would be my motion. I mean, unless we just want to continue to have dialogue, and I'm certainly happy to just, sit back on.
So I totally lost my train of thought. You scared me with the motion.
Sorry. No.
So I do, and I was gonna say this earlier, but Chief, I do want to make sure that one of those vehicles is a replacement for the community relations vehicle. That Trailblazer is a little old, right?
Yes, sir. It's very old.
Yeah, and I know that that's the one that goes out to the community, and
Yes, sir.
I think Cynthia and Officer Izzo are the ones that are driving it, and we want to make sure that it's a nice, presentable, more friendly, community oriented vehicle. So I do want to make sure that one of those vehicles is that. I do think that we should. I did want to talk about other items that I think are also important, so that we can speed these changes a little bit faster, instead of having to discuss them now, come back again, and then come back again for the contract. And I think that there is certain items that we should prioritize. Like I know Chief Lopez was asking for a security system with cameras all over the PD, which currently there's none. So I would like to add that to the list of recommendations that we approve and allow city to execute.
It is some of the things that we were looking for, and it's the improvement of the surveillance system within the department, as well as the facility itself.
Okay, yeah, and City Hall, correct?
Yes, sir.
Great. So I think that's kind of a necessity. And then speaking of safety, one of the reasons that staff wants to remodel the 3rd floor is because there is a safety concern where anybody can go in directly into the 3rd floor. There's no doors, there's no nothing. You're going to walk right into HR, and you can make your way all the way through all of our departments. And that is a safety concern. We're also including in that not just safety features, but I believe that's also the expansion of creating more offices so that more of our employees are have their own space. And I think that helps with COVID and making sure that our staff is properly distanced.
Yeah, that is correct.
I thought I saw you touch your microphone, so I just I think that's something else that we should consider. And then all of IT, I mean, they're talking about Microsoft licenses, a new phone system, which I've used myself and I could never get through it. So I know that it is a dire time to make sure that we replace that system. And that way, I think it'll help our community get a hold of the correct line that they need to. I think that that's been an issue with our current system. To replace the servers, we've seen a lot of our neighbors have issues with cybersecurity, and I think that that is also important. And I believe some of these, I believe the upgrade internet bandwidth is something that we voted on last meeting.
You hadn't yet voted specifically on any one ARP yet. This actually the first time that we bring things specific to ARP.
Great. And then the website software upgrade, I know that we have talked about that in the past. And then I don't know, Manny, if you know, does the website software upgrade include creating a city-focused app?
We could look into that as well.
Yeah, because I know that some of our residents do have trouble accessing our website and kind of navigating it. As we go through COVID, we want to make sure that we can handle offering services, and if we can do it from a distance, that's even better for our staff and our community. Yeah, it's a little small. And I know that finance asked for some infrastructural upgrades. And I think one of the ones that threw me off was that we don't have a budget software program and they are doing it through Excel every time.
Yeah, they need that.
So, and then they're also asking for a AP check printing machine. And I think that's, you definitely need that in accounting. And then it seems that you don't also currently receive citywide credit card services. And that's, I think, another setback as we move into the digital world.
Yes, Mayor. The citywide credit card software will benefit all the community and the business. And as far as the check printer, we have been using that for a long time. And many times when we print checks, it got stuck.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I don't want you to get stuck on my check. So
but the check printer is only cost 8,000.
Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you. It sounds like we're, for the most part, this list, we're in agreement. It just sounds like as far as public works, that allocation, it sounds like we want perhaps to move forward with some seed money to have a further breakdown of the improvements and then have that come back to us for a closer review. And then we can decide from there what the allocation would look like. It sounds like that to me based on the conversation. But so if that's kind of where we are, I mean, I'm happy to make that motion and move the item forward. I did have a question about the records retention. And I think that I can save it. It sounds like that's part of the public works improvement. And I can save that for when the item comes back to us for further review.
I have a question, Mayor.
Okay, what was I don't know who's going to answer.
The motion? The motion? Or
There hasn't been a motion yet.
There hasn't been a motion.
No motion.
So, and then before we continue, so I know that, so the point of this list was so that we pre-approve things. So we're going to pre-approve things and then they're going to come back and then we're going to direct staff to do it. And then the contract's going to come back. So on item number 6, what we're doing is that we are we're authorizing staff to proceed with the following onto full development and implementation. So I am trying to go down the list on things that I think should be added to that list now so that they don't have to come back. I think that we should start upgrading our systems as soon as possible, especially things that have to do with security and our staff. So that's why I was going down the list because I'd like to see more things come more quickly. I believe in September, we will only have one meeting. So that gives staff a lot of time to go through these and, you know, we can be very productive when we come back in October.
Well, like I said, I think it sounds like we are all in agreement of moving these items except for the public works, perhaps, if I'm hearing this correctly or no.
And maybe the reduction of the police cars from 20 to 15. But everything else on this list, personally, I certainly support it and, you know, prioritize it for us. But, you know, what I would ask is, you know, as the records is tied to the public works is for us to give Public Works the 500,000 for the design, which will allow staff to come back to us. So I don't see there's necessarily a disagreement in prioritizing any of the other items that are here. So we can move that forward.
So I think we're not understanding each other. So we would be approving the preliminary process today. So what I am doing is I am trying to remove the preliminary process for certain of these items so that we authorize staff to fully develop and implement these systems so that the next meeting, we don't have to get another one of these staff reports. We get either a report, a contract or something to move forward with implementing that actual item. So I'm trying to go past the preliminary proposal approval is what I'm trying to do. And I think there's a little bit of confusion there.
No,
Is that, I mean,
we
is that
agree
what-
with you. I'm 100% behind that process. I think what we're saying is for the vast majority, we agree with everything that's on here already. So we don't, I don't think we have to go line by line, except for maybe those 2 items that we just talked about, that we can move forward with those now.
So yes, so if we
The expedited version as you're referring to.
So if we do the staff recommendation and I make a motion right now, we're approving the preliminary proposed ARPA allocation. That means that we've preliminary approved these items, but we haven't approved staff to, we haven't authorized staff to move into development of these issues. That's why I'm going down the list.
But you can make the motion to do that and we could certainly.
I'm still going down the list. I know. Okay, don't worry.
Mayor, can I?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, I know you were going down the list, but I'm looking at the Parks and Rec.
You can
So-
expand it on your computer.
No, I don't have it. Oh, there it is. So a big concern of mine, so I was just in another city, I will not mention last weekend, at a park, and I saw their bathrooms. And then I pictured our bathrooms, and they're embarrassing. And so I don't know, Manny, this amount of money to upgrade all of our bathrooms in all of our parks, somehow it just doesn't, I'm not a construction, but somehow doesn't seem enough if we want to get a good quality bathroom in all of our parks. Because I don't know how many of you go to a park and the last thing you want to do is use a bathroom. So I want to be able to provide to our residents a nice facility where they go for their birthday parties or what have you, and they're nice, beautiful bathrooms, well kept up. So that's, looking at that number, I don't feel it would be enough, Manny?
Yeah, we are estimating, based on our past experience, there is a contingency amount still in the ARP funds. So I believe it's 750,000 that we're allocating towards this project. If by chance it should come back at 1.2, then we would come back to the city council and with plenty of time to ask for additional funds, or we would reduce the scope. But we are proposing to remodel all of the public restrooms, like for example, Morgan Park, Barnes Park, Elise Park, Walnut Creek Nature Park, as well as the public restrooms right outside the door here at City Hall. So we would like to increase the quality of life in the sense of the restrooms utilize best practices. The concrete at the parks, the concrete is porous, so it absorbs all of the content around the restroom, so it creates an odor. And regardless of how many times we put bleach and all the chemicals, we just can't seem to get that odor out. It comes back very, very quick.
And you won't until we get better quality material in those bathrooms. And again, to me, it has always been very important to have beautiful bathrooms in our public parks. And I think our bathrooms need a lot of work, and they need a big upgrade. And I really would like to be part of that design, looking at different ideas, just so you know, so we can have nice bathrooms in all of our parks.
And I did want to, speaking of bathrooms, so Manny, I don't know if it's true, but I heard there's no employee restroom at Barnes.
That is correct, Mayor.
So I think that's something that we should be considering, how we can add an addition to the Barnes Recreation Center so that our employees don't have to go out and use the public restroom. I can only imagine that that's uncomfortable being at work, right? So, and then I know that, and then does that facility have equipment? I know that you were asking for some equipment for the Morgan Park, like billiards, foosball, things like that. Does that facility have?
Yes, Mayor, that facility does have equipment, and it's in pretty good shape. The equipment that's utilized from morning till night is at the community center.
Okay, gotcha. And then I know that with Sam, we talked about the possibility. A lot of residents have expressed, concern in the, crossing the streets, and especially during the night. A lot of the streets are very dark. But putting up a light post is, it's going to be expensive. So one of the things that we've talked about is the potential of putting those flashing lights in dark sidewalks, like the ones that we have on Baldwin Park Boulevard, and slowly expanding into the one where you can press it and it'll flash when you walk. And I think that's something that we should be adding to this list, so that staff can look into it and how we can implement it so that we make our sidewalks a little bit safer. And then there was the Valley County Water District. Last time we met with them, they told us that they are currently working on trying to turn into operation their third well. So they have 3 wells, 2 of which are running, but they are close to each other in the north side of Baldwin Park. And there is one more behind Walmart. And they are currently looking to try to get that running again. And I think that falls under infrastructure for water. And I think that is important, right? We have two of our reservoirs are right next to each other and one of the most commercial areas in our city. So it would be beneficial to get a staff report regarding that issue and what they would need from us in order to work on that project. Then I do have one more discussion, and this one's a little bit longer. I know that we've been talking about design and feasibility studies regarding projects, and I think that one of the things that we can do, one of the things that we should consider doing is looking for a feasibility and design process for a new family center at the old Olson site. So I think that one of the issues with our family service center is that it is completely out of sight. You cannot find it no matter where you stand in the park. And that's kind of an issue, right? Because that's where families are going for aid. That's where individuals are going for food. I know that you guys have a little food pantry there. Services are off there, mental health, I believe. Other ones, I believe LGBT services might be coming to there as well. And I think that this goes in play with our idea of offering services. We can create a more usable facility where we can adapt and allow more nonprofits to have a space. The Family Service Center, I don't know if anybody has been in there, but currently, in my opinion, it's not the most well designed. In that office, I think there's only three offices in total, right? So a lot of those nonprofits are having to share the space, and I think that makes for a little bit of a discomfort. Once if we're able to create a bigger and better space, we can welcome more services in, whether they're veteran nonprofits, nonprofits helping working class community, whether it's legal, housing. I know that we sometimes partner with the Housing Rights Center, things like that. So I'd like the council to kind of share their opinions on that.
So we
Mayor.
would be able to use this money for that?
Yeah, Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you. So with these like additions, do we want staff to take them or the input from this evening and also perhaps the community input from Monday and then the next meeting, and then bring a revised or other recommended items perhaps? So should it stay preliminary for now until, we can identify like where there would be some adjustments made for these allocations? Like to account for a new center that would house nonprofit organizations, or that, is in addition to the Family Service Center. Then there would be an additional line item with an estimated amount. And then, we would identify like where that money would come from any one of these items. In other words, it sounds like it's still a work in progress. And maybe based on the input that we're providing this evening, staff can come back with some additional recommended items and consider where the adjustments would be made, like kind of the exchange right now between Mayor Pro Tem Avila and Manny Carrillo about the restrooms, because I agree. I think $750,000 is lowballing for all the facilities, the bathroom facilities. So maybe what we want to do is just provide this input and then have staff come back with a revised list so that we can consider it. And then in addition, as part of that, bring back a breakdown for the public works.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, how we had sort of envisioned this process to work, it is iterative in some regards, because we're still going to community engagement input and feedback that will inevitably change the list that we have now. So in that regard, it's very preliminary. As Councilmember Garcia indicated, from the city side, the way that we had envisioned is the time in which and the level of refinement that we have had on any one project that we felt was ready to be brought forth for consideration of approval to start expending money against it, meaning like running a feasibility report, which means we start spending money, or hiring a consultant, we start spending money. That's how we intended to be bringing it forward, depending on the level of comfort that you felt on anything else, such as how the mayor was going through some of the lists. If you felt enough comfort in those other categories or those other items to proceed to the next level of refinement, which in many cases would be going from a Class C estimate to a Class B estimate or Class A estimate, which is sort of the final estimate, then that's what we would be doing based on your instructions today.
I appreciate that. Enrique, I think, one of the things that we can also look at is pocket parks, through this, some sort of study and our purchase property through that. Because again, those are something that I think we lack. So if we can put that on the list as we look forward for this is, where does that make sense, right? Same manner that the mayor mentioned of the study for the service, which is a good idea. But I also would want to make sure to help identify where those pocket parks we can look and allocate. Because then we can provide, additional services, programming opportunities around there, not only through us, but through other partnerships that we have. There's a lot of stuff that we can do. And, as mentioned, Councilmember Garcia, I certainly, welcome that, to, bring this back. I think for the two items that we have here, I think we've kind of shared our thoughts as it relates to the public works facility. Again, for the cop police cars, and my thoughts also is, all the contracts that is related to this and agreements is I want to see those. That's that's the reason for transparency is I want to make sure that all of that comes back to us, and we have a matrix that staff can develop so we understand how this aligns with what we're approving eventually and as to how the items are coming through.
Yeah, so any contract, I believe, under any contract around any contract above 24,995 will come back to the council for contractual approval. What I'm saying is that we don't want to go through this whole discussion and then we're going to end the meeting. Next meeting, staff is going to bring back another report and say, well, you preliminary approved this 2 meetings ago. Can you approve it now? And then we're going to say, okay. And then it's going to go on to it's going to go through the process and then it's going to come back again. And then either it's another something before the contract or it's going to be the contract. So I'm comfortable with helping our staff and upgrading some of these systems today, which is why I was going down the list. And then that way, the next time we see these issues again, it's the contract form because I think almost all of these, not 98% are going to require city council approval.
Mr. Mayor, just for clarification, you added a few additional things.
Oh, we can look into those.
So
staff can bring back. So we talked about the family restroom. If we can look at that once we look at restrooms.
Okay. So I just want to make sure that we're not necessarily approving those, but we're putting them back onto the list for us for review of those particular items.
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to make sure that we do approve the ones that were on the list that I kind of went down.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think there's any disagreements.
Great. Okay. I just want to make sure so that way, we just skip that middle step. And then the next time we see these again, we have a full contract in front of us. We understand the scope. And then we can proceed to take action.
Yes.
I think we all agree on that part.
Great. So,
if I may still.
Yes.
Just for clarification, when it comes to the police cars and the public works, we're looking to reduce that currently from the 20 that's being proposed in our staff report to the 15 with the addition of one of those being the community service vehicle that, as you mentioned, in addition, for the public works is to allocate the 500,000 for the design study. And staff will then come back to us in regards to the full flurry of items. And that also includes the records. So we're not necessarily eliminating the records room. We're just looking at that again and also looking at what Councilmember Damian also suggested on the third room. Are we all on the same page?
We're allocating, I believe we're allocating 500,000 for the design process. And then what are we doing? We're doing how many cars?
15?
I'm okay with the 20, but I don't know.
I think, so Chief, you said you wanted to buy 7 and then 7 and then 6. So what was the timeline on that?
We're going to stretch it out over a period of time. I haven't had a chance to really discuss with Sam as a timeline where we're leasing the cars and 7 at a time, 7, and 6.
Okay. So why don't we do?
Mayor, really quick before you think through your motion.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
I think that Councilmember Damian mentioned a reduced amount from the 500,000 to look at the public works, to exclude the design piece, because I think if we're looking at a breakdown list, we don't need to move forward with the design. That is costly. And what if we move forward with the design and then we decide we don't want, X, Y, and Z project? Well, it's already been designed, so money has been spent for nothing. So I think I would be in favor of reducing even the 500,000, because we don't really need 500,000 to break down a project and understand the components that are going to be part of that project. So yeah, kind of like just, I guess without the design, maybe just a minimal report or study that helps us to further understand what are the components going into the public works improvements. I'm just seeing 2.5 million right now, but outside of that, I couldn't tell you specifically, what contributes to the 2.5 million. I want to understand that more, because I agree that any facilities that house our employees that need to be improved, that's a necessity. The record retention, I'd like to understand kind of the outsourcing of that, what it costs us to outsource versus what it would cost us to create this building, because I had the same questions about capacity. If in a matter of years we're going to be in the same situation about capacity, then it would probably be easier to continue outsourcing and expanding with greater flexibility. So those are just questions that I have about that. And I think I heard Councilmember Damian say the same thing, if I understood that correctly, or maybe not. But I would be in favor of not expending more money and then cutting back, but rather looking at it from, the very top of the project. What is the breakdown, and expending the minimal amount at this point in time.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Garcia. Yeah, you're actually correct. I was, because if we do approve the design, we're gonna spend the $500,000 on the design or whatever amount it is. If we don't go with the actual complete overhaul, then we spend money for nothing. So maybe we can just do the study or evaluation and not the design, and then bring it back so that we know what the entire scope is gonna look like, and then approve it based on that.
Right. I'm with you.
I would support that.
I guess so. So do you want to just do a feasibility study?
Yeah, if we could just do a feasibility study, evaluation, whatever it is, because if we spent the money on the design and we don't go with the actual complete design that they worked on, we're gonna spend that money for nothing. So this way, if we just do the feasibility study and then they bring it back, we see what the complete scope of work is gonna be, then we can decide on the complete project, if it's gonna be the complete overhaul or just a partial remodel, whatever it is.
May I suggest a compromise?
Yeah, go ahead.
Not that you have to compromise with us, okay? But how about we take it to pre-design, which is something more advanced than a concept report. It's a little bit more than a feasibility study, but it will not draw down the full 500,000. It maybe 300,000. Sam?
I would agree with that.
I'm fine with that. And regarding the records room, we can also look at tomorrow, during our meeting, we can shift that over to the third floor remodel. So we'll remove that from the public works yard, and so that Sam can concentrate only and solely on the public works yard.
Enrique, thank you very much for that suggestion. But I think back to Councilmember Damian's point, in Councilmember Garcia also, still doesn't, we're still drawing down 300,000 for that. So, I would support your, what you're advocating in that particular item, Councilmember Damian. I think that's just the one item, that and the police vehicles are just the two items that we're actually essentially just having a real discussion on. Everything else, I think we agree to.
I really would like to go with the 20 vehicles for the police department. That's the case. But I had a question, not public works. What is the COVID-19 workforce recovery? What exactly it entails?
Do what, Mayor Pro Tem? I'm sorry. Oh, that's the other item. That's the discussion item, right?
Heroes.
Oh, I mean on the list?
Yeah, it's on the hero. The hero pay. You
Oh,
have hero on
that's
the
the
list. Hero pay for
closed
staff.
session item.
No, it's on the list.
No.
On the list.
Enrique, it's on this list.
It shouldn't have been on the
premium, no?
list.
Yeah.
It's,
Never mind.
it's in
Yeah,
premium
so,
pay?
so I,
Premium.
I do think that there's more information needed from HR.
Okay,
For that
so we'll
item.
talk about that later. Thank you. It's on the
So-
list.
Well, so what is so what do you need? I thought 300 was a perfect compromise. It was halfway. We're saving 200,000, but Sam, what do you need?
Yeah, if we're gonna go with a feasibility study, I think about $50,000 would be sufficient just to get started. I don't think we'll spend that, but just to have some contingency. If we're gonna go with Enrique's suggestion to do a pre-design, I think anywhere between 250 and 300 would be a good number.
And your feasibility study will consist of what exactly?
So it will do a couple of things. Number one, it'll reassess the configuration of the yard. We know that this building was originally built to be a CHP station. And that was in 1958. So somewhere around the 70s, the city took it on and shoehorned a public maintenance yard into it. So it is not an optimal place right now for what the work that we need to do. So we need to reconfigure and move things around. Biggest challenge we have, and Anthony can come up and speak to that. The biggest challenge we have is space. So over the years, the yard has been sort of like a suppository. Everything is sent down there and we don't have any more space. Anthony can speak to that. So we want to study that and figure out what would be the optimal things we can do to make the place more, better place to work, of course, but more efficient.
Would the 50,000 assist with that
Correct.
study?
Yeah, for the feasibility study.
And Sam, I don't think any one of us is opposing that at this point. I think what we're just trying to do is we're trying to understand the needs, and that feasibility will help. The feasibility study will help us understand that so that we can envision what you guys are envisioning. So we lose nothing by moving forward with the feasibility study because we would have done that anyway along with the pre-design, right? So if we can kick that off and then based on the feasibility and then our understanding and then our consensus of the needs, then we can move forward with the pre-design.
So, Mayor, so if I understand correctly, we would do the feasibility for $50,000. Then let's say we decide, oh, okay, yes, that's what we're gonna do. So now we have to pay $250 for the design, for the pre-design. So there's 300 there, or a full design per se. So we would be spending 50 in addition to a design now, correct?
Yeah, but we would actually have to be spending, we would have to be, if we were to go with the project period, let's say we were to go with this 2.5 million project, we were gonna have to pay for the design and the feasibility study anyways.
Yeah, so the components that go into a complete project development of this type is you start out with just the conceptual view of it, which is what we've done as of now. And so the estimate is a Class C estimate, which is very rough estimate at the 2.5 million. You do a feasibility study and then you refine that estimate, you find a much closer look at the actual need. You go from a feasibility report into what is the beginning of design, but it's called pre-design because you can stop at like 20% design and come up with a Class B estimate now, are more accurate.
Okay.
Final estimate is a Class A estimate, which is when the design is completely done. So we're saying, we're hearing you loud and clear. You're not prepared to have us go through the full design to get a final estimate. Understood. We can go to the feasibility as Sam suggested and do an accurate enough estimate and assessment for you to make decisions.
And that makes more sense because since from a feasibility, we're going to have to go to a design on whatever it is decided, that makes more sense than going straight to a design that we may not even use. It may be over the top, maybe too low, who knows? So I think a feasibility design, feasibility makes more sense because now you have a better idea of what we are going to design. So I'm in agreement with that.
All right, so we're at 50,000.
Great. Yeah. So as I understand it, we're at 50,000 for a feasibility conceptual study.
Okay, so we are all in agreement that Public Works is getting 50,000 to start that feasibility study.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I may, in regards to the police, as we move, as we think about the 20 cars, perhaps we can just do a holdover on that as we have just the chief provide us, and perhaps Sam, give us more of a detailed information in regards to the age of our vehicles, the mileage that we have, a little bit more justification. So that way, when someone in the community, and I guarantee you they will, because they've already asked me about this, is, why is it that we're spending $500,000 on, leasing cars? I just want to have the facts. I understand the police department obviously runs on a 24-hour schedule. But, I know for a fact that we don't have 20 vehicles running 24 hours. It's a lot lower than that. So again, understanding the cycle, the schedule and so forth will provide a little bit more comfort, not only for myself, but more importantly, I think for the community members when they see that. So I would ask if we could hold that item back just for the next meeting as they do the report. And I'm sure in that report, that would certainly suffice not only myself, but also members in the community. Because we did hear about that at our last public comment at the community park. And I suspect that it's going to be another item that we hear again. So that would be my suggestion, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, so I personally, I think that, and I heard that from the community as well, and I respect it. I think that as we move through navigating this money and trying to do certain upgrades, there's going to be upgrades that the community is not going to be willing to understand. And that's just kind of, that's going to be it. That's the way politics works, right? Some community residents are going to question it. Some are not. $500,000 is really not even 1% of this budget. Me personally, like I said, I do believe that it is that they are necessary. You're telling me they're 10 or 15 years old. That's a very old car you're potentially running through the city in, right? And I know that we have to keep in mind, like I said, our staff, not just our PD, but our staff in general is understaffed. And if we can't provide them an extra set of hands, then we do have to provide them better tools. With PD, keep in mind that we have, and I don't know if Chief is aware, but I believe we have no more than 6 at most. Is that true? We have 4 beats, and then we have 2 cars that kind of support those beats. So we have 6 patrol cars at most throughout the day.
Yes, sir.
So we want to make sure that those cars are running, that they're efficient. We're taking this opportunity to move into our hybrid vehicles, make the city a little bit more efficient. So I do think that we should be moving with some of these items today. And then, like I said, right, our staff deserves, a little bit of a boost. Our PD does deserve some better equipment as a PD. And of course, because we are turning the page, the chapter of PD, and we want to make sure that we boost morale in the first floor.
Here.
Thank you.
I have another question on the cars. Chief, how often does a police officer finish their shift and then another officer gets into the same car?
Almost every day.
Okay. That's so important to know because you have a car running 24 hours, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
And so these cars are not stopping for anything. And because I know they're left on at all times, they're running at all times. So that's why it's important to have 20 cars, because that way we're not using, say, one officer does the night shift, the morning officer doesn't have to use a car. They can use another car, and it's less wear and tear on our vehicles. It lasts longer. There'll be more out on the field for our officers. That's what I'm thinking. The car, how tired is our car? Not just our officer. How worn out is that car when the next shift starts? Is it really safe for our officers, our new officer coming in for the shift, to get in the car? Because anything could have happened from coming in from your shift to the station that our police officer may have not noticed because they're so close. And then now this new officer gets in the car because we want them to check his vehicle. Now they're out on our streets, putting themselves in danger if there is something wrong with the car. We have enough vehicles, in my mind. We have the opportunity to check the vehicles that were just used to make sure they're safe, the brakes are working, that everything's functioning, or another officer gets in the car. That is my reasoning for making sure that we have enough vehicles so that they're not constantly running, they're not constantly being used from one shift to the other, that they have different cars so that they can get a break, so they can check them out, make sure they're fine before they go back out on the road. That's just my
Perfect.
comment
Mr.
on
Mayor,
that,
if I
and
may?
that's why I think it's so
sorry.
important.
Yes, Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you. So perhaps, again, I think there is, I'm not necessarily against the vehicles. But I think, a fair compromise that I think would be reasonable is, if we could ask, as we approve perhaps, the 20 vehicles here tonight, that we ask for the chief and Sam to provide us just a feasibility study. So we understand, the wear and tear and so forth. So we truly understand what it is before our next meetings, and should something pop out from us from that quick report, that includes the miles, right? How long they are, how long it's going to cost, what's the expected life span for the new vehicles that we're buying? Because again, I don't have that information right now. So I don't know who does, but we don't have to answer that now. But what I would ask is that you provide us back that detailed information, that report back for these vehicles, because that will help all of us truly understand, where we stand with these. But, I would be happy to move forward with that as long as we could ask for the chief and Sam to provide us that report back by the next council meeting.
And that'll be perfect to have.
Perfect. Thank you.
Are you
I think
saying
that'll solve a lot of
so you're saying
back and forth. Thank you.
The 20, and then getting a report back, all the study.
So we're gonna report the day. We're authorizing them to start the development. Once you're bringing everything back, you're bringing the staff report with that. Is that what we're agreeing to?
If I may,
Yes.
Mayor. Yeah, I just want to add another dimension that speaks to that. So we are right now putting together the CIP program for this year. Because a lot of these projects on the list need to be capitalized, it would make sense for us to include those in the CIP. That is what will be the official authorization for any staff member who has a project on the CIP to begin work on it. We are a little late on the CIP and is delaying our current CIP project. So we want to bring that back at the next meeting.
Mayor, if I may ask,
It'll just be a reentry, Sam. We want to leave with an approval here today, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Councilmember Damian.
yeah, I just have a question regarding, maybe Chief Lopez can answer this. The vehicles that we are trying to lease, how long were this lease be for?
So because the funds have to be expended by December 31st, 2024, it would be around a 3-year lease, because when we order vehicles for leasing, we order them straight from the factory. So they have to build them and then send them over to us. So that'll take in some time. So it looks like, and the reason the project is on the list is because time is of the essence. The sooner we get approval to move forward, we can order the vehicles to get them here sooner and be able to lease them a little bit longer.
So if we're allocating special ARP funds for these particular 20 vehicles that we're thinking of leasing, and the lease is only for 3 years, what happens in the 3 years when the lease is over and these vehicles are returned back? are we gonna have to set aside an additional $500,000 to release?
No, I don't have the estimate, but as Councilmember Paul Hernandez mentioned, we can come back with those numbers and that data. So the idea of the leasing program was to kickstart a new vehicle replacement program. Is the best way to get the most cars, in one bang. And so we're transitioning our entire fleet over to fuel efficient, type vehicles, and we are getting rid of the environmentally detrimental vehicles. So those vehicles will go to auction. The funding that we get from that auction supplements the leasing program, and that's how it works. So at the end of the 3 years or however long we lease them, we'll have the opportunity at that time to either continue the lease, buy them outright, or just return them.
Got it. And at that time, we're not gonna have to allocate additional funding for that, correct? We're gonna have the funding for that?
Right, so that gives us 3 years to sort that out. And since we're replacing vehicles all the time, we fund that program through the replacement of those vehicles that are sold off.
Through auction.
I'm sorry?
They're sold off through auction?
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're ready to make a motion. I did just want to say that there may be the potential of extending those leases with ARP funds, depending on how we manage that money. So that's something that, something that the council members can take into consideration. So it says that we've allowed 50,000. The cars, we're okay with the cars. You'll bring back a staff report on that. And I think we're good on that. And then just to be clear, did we allow for full development and implementation of the HR items and the AP and some other items that I mentioned? Yeah. And you can go through the record and you'll be okay. Great, thank you. Okay, so at this moment, we'll make a motion to add, so we'll add some items to number 6 so that our staff can is authorized to full development and implementation, bring those contracts back. We are reducing the fund for public works to 50,000. And we are allowing the police vehicles. And that's my motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any objections? No? Okay, item passes. Lengthy, but necessary discussion. So thank you guys for that. And then that was our last item. And I believe I am going to quickly call to order the Housing Authority regular meeting. And I will make a motion. Just want to get this out of the way first. Yeah, but then we'll go to consequence. So I'll make a motion to pass consent calendar. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any objections? Not. Item passes, and I move to adjourn the Housing Authority regular meeting.
Second.
Any objections? None. At this moment, I call to order the Finance Authority regular meeting. And there's a consent calendar, and I'll make a motion to pass that. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any objections? Consent calendar passes. I move to adjourn the Finance Authority meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any objections? None. And we are back to our regular meeting. Councilmember Hernandez, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to bring this item, again, as we're talking about, supporting our staff, and as we're looking towards, hiring new staff members, that I certainly want to have, a thorough discussion, in a public study session, for staff to help develop diversity, equity, and inclusion policy. So that way, we're looking at, the various staff positions, making sure that, we have equity across the board, folks of minority, and also just making sure that we're inclusive as we see the makeup of our city. So this is just an item that I like for us to, have further discussion as we help develop this, because I think what this will do for us is just make us a stronger city. As we come back, as we talked about, of supporting our staff, this is another method and process that would certainly help our current staff, but also those that we're trying to recruit in the future. So that's essentially in a small tidbits of what we're looking to do in a public session. Thank you.
I think that's a great idea. We always want to make sure that we have a diverse, socially integrated staff, and that way they are better at empathizing with our community and understanding the things that they go through and why certain services are needed and so forth. So I think that's a great idea. Councilmember Hernandez, I don't think anybody has any anything going against that. Chief Executive Officer, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had opened up this discussion in the last council meeting with just a general introduction as to what we have entered in the resurgence of COVID-19. And while we were all beginning to celebrate the real reopening of the economy, of our daily work, it didn't take too long for us to begin to sort of regress, unfortunately. And with that, I introduced the notion that the city council began to consider potential steps and measures that we would want to take under consideration here as an employer. We obviously have a big role as the city government for the city at large, but I'm talking today specifically for us as an employer. And I provided some background, sometimes being able to look back of all the things that have taken place over the last year and a half in terms of preventive, mitigating, and other measures that the city has put in place, not to mention the county, the state, and the country as a whole. But as we have been looking at the numbers, which had been steadily climbing in this last 4 or 5 weeks, it looks like this week they're beginning to plateau. It's hopefully more than a hope. Maybe it is actually a downward trend. But in the meantime, what has transpired since we first introduced this discussion 2 weeks ago at the last council meeting, some pretty drastic measures have been put in place by other entities. The County of Los Angeles has now required a vaccination by October 1st as a condition of employment for all employees of the county. And that, we're talking 110,000 employees. And the list goes on. Just in this week alone, the Cal State systems have done something similar. And so, that could probably be one of the most critical measures that the council might consider. Others that I have listed for discussion today that I believe we should do that will still help in mitigating and reducing the potential number of contact points. That means whether one person comes in contact with another person, an employee comes in contact with another employee, and so forth, would be things that, in some measured way, we could reintroduce some form of teleworking. In my brief write-up, I speak of a staggered alternating teleworking day, which could be a Monday, while ensuring that there is an absolute presence of staff to take care of our residents and our customers. The other thing I have introduced as an idea is that we dedicate either half a day or a day for Employee Vaccination Day. Employee and their families working in partnership with KP, with Kaiser Permanente, and our very own Manny and Maria. They have one of the best relationships with Kaiser. I'm sure we can swing that. So those are just ideas that I put on here for you to consider. Some of them are readily implementable, and I think we should, if you give us the direction to do so. So that's where I want to leave it, Mr. Mayor.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Enrique. I think that, as we look at the numbers surge and things are changing ahead of us, I do think that this is a conversation that we have to have sooner or later because of the subject at hand and the type of requirements and the type of atmosphere and culture that has been kind of born around this. I think that this might be an issue that the council can take up in potentially closed session, so that we can all be there and further discuss and just have a more, a better dialogue between staff, so that we can consider everything without it, being in a time like this.
I think we could do that, Mayor.
So Enrique, if you'd like, I think that the best thing for you to do is we can add this to our next special meeting, and then we can have full discussion there. Great. And I didn't put any requests in, but over the week.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, if I may, just.
Yes, Councilmember.
In regards to that one item, as we look at that, also look as it relates to our residents, the various, contact points, but also the programs and the services that we have. That speaks to also the policies of what we had this evening. I think personally, we had way too many people here. We had terrific events and terrific recognitions for folks, but filling up our council chambers with folks is not a best practice. So if we could look at those type of measures also internally as we provide those type of services for our community, we want to make sure that individuals are still able to interact with us, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we set an example of protecting our constituents and our residents. And by doing that, that would also be looking at maybe perhaps shutting down, not to say that we're going to do this just yet, but at least a discussion of closing the chambers for our audience, or limiting the number of folks that we have, regardless of presentations or what we're doing. But at least develop a policy so staff understands if we are going to have 10 people in regards to a recognition, maybe it's only that's the only one that we have for that particular night. So again, we're not crowding our facilities and putting not only us at risk, the residents that are at risk, and of course our staff, because again, if one of our staff members gets sick, they're out for 2 weeks or a week or 10 days, depending on if they've been if they have the vaccination or not. So if we could just add that to the discussion as we go into further on this one. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, thank you. No, that's a good idea. So we can definitely add that. And then
Mayor?
just, yes, Councilmember Garcia.
Thank you. Yeah, I very much agree with Councilmember Hernandez and his comments. And I mentioned it at the last meeting where, where we were sitting shoulder to shoulder. We have our audience members sitting shoulder to shoulder. We have an increase, outside of our city. We're seeing, just in the county, we're seeing a surge. At the state, there's a surge, mostly with unvaccinated, but also some vaccinated being affected as well. And so I do agree that we need to look at limiting exposure. I understand that there have been a couple of positive cases amongst our staff in the last couple of weeks, and we had not had a positive case since the first quarter of this year. So I really do think that we need to take this serious. And, thank you, Enrique, for bringing this forward for the second time now for our conversation and for our consideration. And it's really about, protecting our staff because of the circumstances. This is an evolving situation with COVID. In June, all restrictions were lifted. We were sitting on the dais without masks, and I was as happy as could be. But where we find ourselves now is a different place than where we were in June. So we just have to be fluid, and we have to flow with the trend. And we need to be mindful of the trend and what we're seeing outside of our city, but also, we don't live in a bubble. And so we need to start applying these things in our city. Especially with 50% of our staff being vaccinated and 50% being unvaccinated. So for those of us who have been vaccinated, I feel like we've developed a comfort level. But I really want to be careful and think about those who are not vaccinated, because this is a very, this virus it can be very severe and lead to death or it could be mild. And, we just don't know how people are going to be impacted by this. So we really have to take that into consideration. I feel like we are we tend to downplay it because in June, everybody was so happy. And we felt like we were turning a corner. But at this point in time, I think we really do need to take these serious because lives are at risk. So, it's really just about limiting the exposure. We can't expect that we're going to shut down City Hall but things like what Councilmember Hernandez said, possibly, shutting down the chambers to the public or at least creating space between the seating or taking appointments for our city staff, from the public. Unfortunately, I've been the person calling a public agency and they're only taking appointments. Why? Because it's a more controlled environment. The state is doing this and other local agencies. So these are all things that we can consider. And I know that we will moving forward. But I just wanted to underscore the comments that were already made and impress upon everybody, why it is important. The LA County is not allowing for indoor gatherings, and that's something for us to consider. So I'll leave it at that because I'm only prolonging our staff's exposure by talking about this.
Great, thank you for that. So before we adjourn, I did want to ask our staff to work on housing PSAs and potentially vaccine PSAs as well. As we've heard here, and as a housing authority staff has heard throughout the past couple of months, a lot of people are facing potential violations in our ordinances, and we want to make sure that the city is enforcing this ordinance, and we want to make sure that people aren't being displaced during this time. So I would like to see some more PSAs on our marquees, potentially in airport time, and also work on how we can get more to a lot of these complexes, because I think that there's still more issues that we're not aware of because people aren't speaking up. And then just one more thing, I know that we have a lot of unused public art funds, and I'd like to just get a staff report regarding public art funds and what we could potentially do with them. I think it'd be a nice way to increase civic pride.
Mr. Mayor, if I may. Oh, sorry.
Oh, City Clerk?
I was just going to do it. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. You all received this flyer. Very important for the community to also know this is on social media. On behalf of the city clerk's office, we are undergoing a California gubernatorial recall election, which is set for September 14th. And we've listed ways to vote. We have these official ballot drop boxes. We have 2 in the city of Baldwin Park, one out here on Bogart and another one located on the public street at Kaiser Permanente on Baldwin Park Boulevard. So we encourage all of our residents to start voting, submitting their ballots. You can also drop them off at the post office. And there will be a vote center that will be operational from September 4th through the 14th. So we provided all the links and information on here. We strongly encourage everyone to get out and vote. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
Yes, Councilmember Hernandez.
Thank you. I just want to add to your item in regards to the housing issue. Perhaps, when we ask staff if you're okay with this, because again, this was yours. But perhaps we could also look at what it would look like to outsource some additional staff or some additional outreach efforts, because again, as you mentioned, and as others have contacted me and all of us, I think, on this council, is they still don't know, that we have, this rent ordinance, the freeze, the various regulations. So in order to do that, perhaps we could look at targeting some of our larger facilities first and foremost, and then looking at it that way. But at least trying to bring in some sort of assistance for Ben and his staff, because I don't think Ben has the capacity to be out there. So if we can just, look at what that looks like for us too. Thank you.
Yeah, and I agree. We want to make sure that we, this is a pretty time sensitive issue. I did forget to mention, I know that we have a contract with our with HRC, the housing rights. So, and I know that there's still some state funds available, and I know that they do a very good job at explaining the rights. So we can also maybe potentially look at some sort of online forum where we help guide a lot of these people into the applications that they need to get those funds to help with rent, and then we also explain to them our ordinance. Great.
Mayor,
Yes.
and to add to that, maybe we can have our local churches announce it during their announcements. Our school district, again, I don't know if we reached out to them so they can send an announcement. So everybody's aware of these services that are available.
Great. And then, of course, we do have another Baldwin Park Community Engagement Meeting on Tuesday, August 31st, 2021 at 6 p.m. And this one will be hosted at Barnes Park. So if you have if any of our constituents have any good ideas or any ideas at all, we will take them all into consideration regarding how we can provide better services throughout the next 4 years with ARPA money. At this point, I think we are all done with our
Mayor?
Oh, yes, Councilmember Damian.
Yes, before you adjourn, if I may, I would like to acknowledge the mental health walk that we had on August 7th.
Mhm.
And I wanted to thank staff, Manny Carrillo, Maria Moreno, our Public Works Department, Police Department. I also want to thank, special thanks to April Rojo. She was the one assigned to coordinate this in such a short period of time. And I would also like to thank the Baldwin Park Police Department, the USD. I don't want to forget anybody. Oath to Country Foundation, True Pride Car Club, and our fire station, and all of our other partners. But most importantly, I would like to see if maybe you guys are in agreement to add this event to our special event calendar. And since May is Mental Health Awareness Month, maybe we should bring this back to every May and have this at Morgan Park. So maybe that could be a future discussion, but if you guys are in agreement, maybe we can add this to our special events calendar moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I mean, the turnout was amazing. And then the amount of people that were involved, all those cars, it filled up the whole right-hand side of the parking lot. So, you know, the people really responded to it. Our organizations came out and the community really loved it. I think it should become an annual thing and we should really plan for it on a regular basis. But we can always talk about that with staff and how they feel about it. So at this point, I believe we do need to go into closed session. So we will recess into closed session.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah. Great. So thank you, everybody.